Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto finds himself training in the ways of both a samurai and a shinobi. Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Konoha, Naruto's age 10. The wounded Naruto fell to the ground, his clothes tattered and covered in his blood as rusted blades were driven into his legs, pinning Naruto to the ground and not allowing for any further escape from the blonde. Hurts, doesn't it? A drunken voice asked as a few villagers stumbled towards Naruto. Are you scared, demon? A villager asked, kicking Naruto in the face. Please, Naruto muttered, and no more. Now a third villager asked, dousing Naruto in an unknown liquid. Now you ask for mercy. Give us our families back. A fourth villager demanded, shattering a bottle over the blonde's head, a shard of glass cutting Naruto in his right eye. Then we'll grant you mercy. Naruto screamed in pain as the vision in his right eye faded into darkness. Before he was able to even process what happened, Naruto was slammed into the pavement before more of the liquid was doused over his head. Hurry! A villager yelled, the Anbu might be coming any time. With his body broken, Naruto could do nothing but lay helpless on the pavement, blinded in one eye, with semblances of a strange liquid in the other. Suddenly, a villager dropped a lit match onto Naruto, setting the young blonde completely ablaze, causing him to scream in pain. With the crime now committed, the villagers fled the scene, leaving behind a burning Naruto. Help me, Naruto murmured, not being able to yell due to the multiple wounds across his body as the remaining vision he had in his left eye slowly faded. Dark, it's so dark, it's all gone dark. Help me, Naruto thought as his vision completely vanished, with the blonde himself falling unconscious. As if a form of ironic justice had intervened, a downpour of rain soon followed, extinguishing the flames which had encompassed Naruto. Before long, two jonin wandered towards Naruto before standing over him. Is that? The first jonin asked. It sure is, the second jonin replied. That's the demon. Too bad though, it seems someone got to him first. We? The first jonin asked. No, it's not our problem, the second jonin stated. We'll take the knives, though. Doing as the second jonin said, the first jonin removed the rusted blades from Naruto's legs before leaving with the second jonin as the rain continued to pour down upon the grievously wounded Naruto. Unbeknownst to the two leaving jonin and Naruto himself, however, the blonde's wounds began to patch themselves up. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto could have sworn he was dead, blinded at the very least. Suddenly, the screams halted as Naruto found the strength to stand up once again. What is this? Naruto thought, stumbling to his feet before smacking into a wall. It's cold, wet, lonely. Cold, isn't it? Came a deep voice, startling Naruto. Who are you? Naruto asked, falling to his feet. Don't hurt me. Easy, kid, the voice urged, those aren't easy wounds to suffer. Where am I? Naruto asked, groping the air in an attempt to find his way. We're in your mind, more specifically, your mindscape, the voice replied. Who are you? Naruto asked. The only damn reason you're alive right now, the voice declared, I am the Kyuubi. But, you're dead. Naruto stated, the fourth Hokage killed you. Do you seriously still think that's the case? The Kyuubi deadpanned, have you ever stopped to consider why all those villagers called you a demon? Have you ever thought about why all your academy teachers treated you like shit? That's not your fault, it's mine. The fourth Hokage sealed me inside of you. Why? Naruto asked, why did he do that? Perhaps I can explain, a voice suddenly said. You. The Kyuubi suddenly roared, take one good look, Minato, look what they did to your son. Minato? Son. Naruto thought, before piecing it together, the fourth Hokage is my father. Still having no information regarding the world around him due to his lack of eyesight, Naruto groped around as slow footsteps approached him. As if he had not been blinded, Naruto could almost picture Minato crouching to his level before hugging him tightly. What? Minato began to ask, just what have they done to you, Naruto? Is it true? Naruto squeaked out weakly, are you my father? There was a sudden pause as Naruto could feel tears on his shoulder. I am, Minato replied, fully expecting his son's retaliation, only to be surprised when Naruto returned the hug. I am truly sorry. Why? Naruto asked, why me? Why did you seal the Kyuubi inside of me? That's for later, Minato assured, right now, we need to make sure you do not perish, not like this. Minato stood up before also helping Naruto up. There is a sealing scroll in front of you, Minato explained, pointing towards the seal which contained Kurama. If you just rip a bit of it off, the Kyuubi can supply you with enough of his chakra to ensure your survival, Minato continued as Naruto began limping towards the paper. That's it. Naruto groped around before placing his hand on the edge of the paper. Minato's eyes widened as Naruto bent his right arm. Noticing Naruto's true intent, Minato dashed over before pulling the blonde away from the scroll. Do not do that, Naruto, Minato replied, should you remove the scroll entirely, the Kyuubi will. I know, Naruto stated, cutting Minato off, but from how I was treated I see no reason that Konoha should not burn to the ground. Aside from the fact that doing such a thing would kill you, Minato began to explain as the environment around them shifted to one that was completely blank. That is not the right way, Naruto. You cannot blame the crimes of a few on the entirety of a group. That is simply unfair on them. Naruto fell to his knees, holding his head in his arms. Then explain, father. Why was it fair for me to get treated the way I did? Naruto suddenly burst out, how is it fair for me to be the one who constantly has to be beaten? For something that I am not responsible for. So long as fear exists in this world, hate will constantly be festered often against those who do not deserve it in any way, Minato began to explain. Tears began to stream down Naruto's face as he picked himself up. I just can't bring myself to forgive Konoha. Part of me truly does want to see Konoha burn. I know, Minato replied. Then tell me what I should do. Naruto demanded, tell me, Lord Fourth. What should I do? Minato did not reply, merely placing a hand on Naruto's shoulder. How old are you, Naruto? Then Naruto replied, rubbing the tears from his face. My Minato continued, you must have been through a lot, haven't you? I have no right to call myself a good man, let alone a good father, for letting you go through that, but there is a reason for which I sealed the Kyuubi into you. And what could that have been? Naruto asked in anger, what reason could have possibly been so important that you've compelled me to this fate? I wanted you to forge your way, Minato revealed, surprising Naruto, for I believed that you would master the Kyuubi's power, because you are my son. As a parent, it is my duty to watch over you, nurture you, and protect you, seeing as I couldn't do any of those, the least I could do was to put my faith into you. A single tear fell onto the ground as Naruto positioned his face where he assumed Minato's face was. Then Naruto began to say, tell me what should I do? Minato paused before answering. I don't know. If you can't give me an answer, Naruto began, slowly welling up again, who am I to find an answer? I'm not smart. I'm not strong. I'm placing a hand on Naruto's head, Minato cut his son off before speaking once again as he began to fade into the air. You'll find an answer, Minato assured with a smile, I believe in you. You are my son. You can do it. Tears began to stream down Naruto's face as he felt Minato slowly fading away. Naruto suddenly smiled, sensing Minato's smile. As long as you do not give up hope, as long as you do not give in to the deepest of your temptations, Minato assured, vanishing into nothing, with nothing more but his voice still echoing through Naruto's mind. I believe you can do it and I always will. Naruto smiled with contempt into the darkness of his vision, the environment shifting to a vast forest, one of which the Kyuubi stood in the center of. What the Kyuubi began to say, only for Naruto to raise an arm. Consider this my thanks, Kurama, Naruto replied, shocking the nine-tailed beast. For always looking over me. How did you, Kurama asked. Know your name? Naruto asked, I don't know, it's like, I always knew. Naruto turned around, I should be fully healed by now, right? Not waiting for Kurama's response, Naruto continued. I don't exactly know where I should go now, but Konoha isn't where I'm staying. Wait. Kurama yelled. That should be all for now, Kurama, Naruto stated, I'm counting on you, from now on. Shut up and listen to me. Kurama placed forth a demand, one which Naruto appeased. There is one more thing I can do for you, albeit it's really your choice if you want me to. I'm listening, Naruto replied. If I was to say, age you by 2 years and infuse my chakra with your own, Kurama began to explain, I could make you gain a better sense of hearing, smell, and chakra control. Why would I say no to that? Naruto asked back. Well, there is one more part, Kurama continued, your blindness will take 3 years to heal. So what? Naruto asked, I could hear and smell better, and hell, waiting 3 years for a cure to my eternal darkness is better than living the rest of my life blind. Just a heads up, Kurama interjected, the eyes you gain after the 3 years are up will not be the same ones you had. What are they called? Naruto asked, knowing full well of the special names of unique eyes. The Kitsuryugen, Kurama stated, you should wake up now, it is the opportune time to leave. Real world. Naruto slowly struggled to his feet, noticing his continued lack of vision, as well as the absence of any wounds. Naruto groped around for a bit before coming upon a cloth-like object. Not taking any time to analyze the situation, Naruto quickly tied the cloth around his eyes before, with Kurama's instructions, making a mad dash out of the village and into the great unknown. The next day, Naruto awoke atop a tree branch with little to no recollection of how he had gotten there and with even lesser knowledge of his current location. Where do I go now, Kurama? Naruto asked mentally. Your father left a map for you, Kurama explained, one which would lead you to what seems to be the final relic of your heritage. Seeing as your current situation leaves you unable to read the map, I'll lead the way, just listen closely. Where does it lead? Naruto asked verbally, taking note of the slim chance of anyone being there. The place of which I have only laid eyes upon once, Kurama noted, Uzushi Agakure, the home of the Uzumaki clan. Naruto nodded, noting the shared names between himself and the clan. Importantly, Kurama continued, the former home of Kushina Uzumaki, my former hostess, and your mother. Hours later, halt, Kurama stated, we've arrived. Naruto stood across where the former city once stood, mentally picturing the demolished village based on how Kurama had described it. I hear something, Naruto stated, something akin to a whisper echoing in his ears. They call to me. What does? Kurama questioned. The voices of the extinguished, Naruto replied, making his way across a bridge, one which Kurama had not told him of. How did you? Kurama began to ask. They're guiding me, Naruto revealed. Naruto traversed the ruined village, stretching his arms about to ensure he did not bump into any rubble. Upon reaching the direct center of the settlement, Naruto fell to his knees, groping around as if trying to find something. Eventually, Naruto found what he had been looking for, a hand-shaped hole, one which perfectly fit his hand. Place your hand, a voice whispered into Naruto's ear. Claim your heritage. Nodding to himself, Naruto placed his hand into the hole before the ground began to shake slightly as something seemed to unearth itself. Reaching out, Naruto wrapped his fingers around what appeared to be the hilt of his sword. Now knowing the true reason he was called here, Naruto grabbed the handle tightly before pulling it out of the ground, claiming the katana-like blade as his own. Our hopes and dreams now live through you, came the whisper of a loving female voice, my son. Naruto held the blade up high as he felt his chakra coursing into the blade, just as many whispers echoed through his ears. Muramasa, Naruto stated, so that's your name, I wonder what do you look like? Unbeknownst to Naruto, the blade began to glow red before reverting to its normal blue tint. If you're done inspecting the blade, Kurama stated, breaking Naruto out of his trance, put the blade back in its sheath and let's get going. Alright, Naruto replied, sheathing his newly acquired blade and placing it around his back. Where to now? The place where they will teach you to use that blade, Kurama assured, the home of the samurai, the land of iron. Naruto nodded as Kurama began to guide him out of the ruins of the former village. Naruto, age 15. But the starry night sky above, as well as the moon which shined a shade of silver light across the lands, Naruto sat atop a large tree, overlooking the next destination of his travels, a small village situated on an important trade node in the center of the elemental nations, the land of waves. Not able to see the small town with his blinded eyes, Naruto was left only with his ability to hear all that went on in the streets of the village. In the last 3 years, Naruto had changed significantly. Gone was the boy who wanted nothing more than to impress everyone in Konoha. In his place was a scarred young man who had seen the worst of what life had to offer. The ends of the tattered cloth tied around his eyes flowed in the air as the wind intensified, the tattered cloak he wore also taking flight into the wind. Naruto positioned his face towards the direction of the village below. So Naruto began to say mentally, is this the place? It is, Kurama replied. I sense a familiar chakra, a familiar presence. Yup, Naruto replied mentally, it's about time for Inu and Konoha to learn of the current status regarding Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto placed his mask over his face before sniffing the air, noting something wrong. Sensing the presence of another, Naruto unsheathed Muramasa before intercepting an attempted strike from what sounded like a senbon, the ringing noise of the needle striking against the blade of Muramasa filling Naruto's ear. That noise reminding Naruto of the one who had taught him all he knew regarding Kinjutsu. 3 years ago, guided by Kurama's directions, as well as he could, anyways, Naruto arrived at a large gate atop a winter mountain. Having coursed through the endless snowstorm for days by now, Naruto held little regard towards the station guards at their posts, blindly walking into the village. Stunned, the samurai stationed there contemplated what they should do in the face of this. Do we chase him out? The first guard asked. He's just a kid, the second replied, he seems to be blind, it's the least we could do to help him around, it is the winter, after all. I'll go inform Mifune-sama. The first guard yelled, running off into the village's central tower. The second guard merely laughed at the enthusiasm of his colleague before turning to see Naruto, only to realize the disappearance of the blonde entirely. What the guard muttered before going back to his post. Anali, did you hear that? Naruto asked, having just heard a scream creep out of the dark alleyway. Careful, Kid, Kurama warned, this land it's foreign even for me. Naruto nodded before walking into the dark alley. Deeper into the alley, a girl around Naruto's age stood, cornered by 3 men, all wielding katanas, one of which was pointed at the girl's neck. So Aain-san, one of the men began, do you still not intend on cooperating? Why would I, the granddaughter of the shogun, the newly identified Aain started, betray him to help the 3 of you? A group of nameless thugs. It may or may not have occurred to you, the second man stated, spitting a reed out of his mouth. You aren't exactly in any position to negotiate. A series of slow footsteps approached the group as the third man stood up, turning to face Naruto. Based on the blonde's bandaged eyes, the man could easily tell what issue Naruto had faced. Central Tower. Standing before a large window, Mifune calmly overlooked the silent town he presided over. Before long, this sense of calmness would be broken upon the sudden barging into the room by a gate guard. Mifune-sama. The guard yelled, we have a villager. Oh? Mifune asked curiously, seeing that no ordinary person would course through blizzards to visit the land of iron. What does he look like? Well, he has blonde hair, the guard began to describe, he seemed to be blind and seems to be no more than the age of 12. Fascinating, Mifune stated, this person must either be completely insane to climb a mountain blind or he has an actual reason to be here. Mifune turned to the guard, picking up the katana laid on his desk. Take me to him, Mifune ordered. The alley, you lost, kid? The third man asked, walking up to Naruto. Well, I am blind, Naruto replied, attempting to find a way out of the situation. Could you give me a guide around? Of course, the man replied, guiding Naruto by the shoulder. Hold it. The first man yelled, pointing his katana towards Naruto. He can't go. He's heard everything. Mostly just the threatening part, the second man chimed in, unsheathing his katana, but he still has heard that. My apologies, kid, the third man stated, pushing Naruto away before jumping backward, but no blind boy carries a sword. Without any further warning, the third man dashed towards Naruto, slashing at the blonde. Watch out. Aain warned. Right before the blade was about to slice Naruto's face apart, the blonde ducked down, before unsheathing Muramasa, its blade glowing red with chakra. Before anyone was able to react, Naruto slashed back at the man, deflecting several of his blows. Surprised by the blonde's display of skill, the second man joined his partner in his clash against Naruto. Strange, Naruto thought, blocking a blow, I can't see them but it's like it does not matter, I can still block their attacks just as easily. I've never held a sword before a few days prior, let alone wielded one, but it's as if Muramasa fits right in my hands. Shaking his head from his thoughts, Naruto backflipped over the third man, slashing at the wrist of the man throughout his movement, completely amputating the man's arm from the wrist down, causing an ear-piercing scream from the man. What did the second man thought, slightly shaking from Naruto's display. Isn't he blind? Slightly shocked by Naruto's display herself, Aain would become even more shocked when Naruto would suddenly appear in front of her, raising his sword in a bid to defend her. Why would he? Aain began to think, a stranger, let alone someone blind, come to my defense. This guy's rather peculiar too, he can't see, but he still fights like someone who has been able to see their entire life. With himself now cornered, Naruto could only hope to stall the three men before someone else intervened. Muramasa, however, seemed to have a different intent as the edge of its blade began to glow even brighter. Right as Naruto prepared himself to receive several stabs and slashes, a deep voice brimming with wisdom rang out as the katanas of the three men fell to the ground, followed by the men themselves. Aain? Mifune asked, sheathing his sword, are you alright? Aain pushed Naruto out of the way before running over and hugging Mifune. I'm alright, Aji-san, Aain assured, this guy saved me from those rogues. Mifune stared at Naruto, who had now sheathed Muramasa, taking note of the blonde's apparent blindness, as well as the several scars adorning his face. I owe you a great deal, Mifune began to say before stopping. Well, Naruto replied, debating on whether or not to reveal his last name. Just Naruto. Mifune continued. What do I do, Kurama? Naruto mentally asked, do I tell them that? Do what you want, Kurama muttered, did you not remember what your father said? Forge your path. Uzumaki, Naruto finally stated, causing Mifune's eyes to widen. Naruto, Uzumaki is my name. Uzumaki? Mifune asked, could have sworn you were all wiped out. Still trying to figure that out myself, Naruto replied. It seems the world hasn't been kind to you, has it? Mifune asked. It hasn't, Naruto replied, pointing at the cloth tied around his eyes. These eyes are the prime pieces of evidence towards that fact. How would you like an apprenticeship? Mifune asked, confusing Naruto. You have nowhere else to go, so I could offer you refuge here. Adding on to that fact would be your inner talents. I've witnessed is that sword, Muramasa. Naruto was stunned. How did you? It was once wielded by the Uzumaki clan, had a fearsome weapon which is said to house thousands of souls within it, Mifune explained. What do you say? I am still not sure, Naruto murmured. How old are you? Aain asked. Sensing what Naruto was about to say, Kurama quickly chimed in to correct him. You're 12, I aged you by 2 years, remember? Thanks, Kurama, Naruto mentally replied, before speaking up. 12. You're my age? Aain asked, almost shocked by the fact. What are you? Are you a samurai? No, Naruto replied. Are you a shinobi? Aain inquired. Nope, Naruto continued. So what are you? Aain asked, what do you do with your time? Still trying to figure that out myself, Naruto replied, I guess I'll accept. What will I be trained as? A samurai, Mifune replied. Can I? Naruto questioned, I'm blind. You are, Mifune explained, but it is not physical traits that make a samurai, it is the virtues an individual holds that make them a suitable samurai, and for you, Naruto, you possess the ability to overcome great fear and jump in to save someone whom you hold no obligations toward. That is something most others cannot say about themselves. Then again Naruto began to ask, where do I live? You live with us? Aain exclaimed, we have many guest rooms. That's fine and all, Mifune began to say, but Naruto here doesn't even know his way around our village. I can fix that easily, Aain stated, grabbing Naruto by the wrist before pulling him away. We'll see you later, Aji-san. Seeing Naruto being pulled by his granddaughter across the village, Mifune could do nothing but sigh. In 5 years this was the first time she acted so excited and full of life. Mifune thought. Regarding Naruto, he is an interesting fellow. Within his short stint here, he has already changed. Aain. Naruto ought to be an interesting pupil. 2 years later, placing a newly designed Oni mask over his face, Naruto stood across from Aain as both of them held their Bakken against each other. Both sides ready? A referee asked. Yes, Naruto confirmed. Are you sure? Aain teased, tightening her grip over her Bakken. You sure you don't need 5 more minutes, Naruto-kun? We'll see, Aain-chan, Naruto replied as the referee stepped back. Begin. The referee announced. Naruto and Aain dashed towards each other, clashing in the center of their sparring ground. The two broke apart their clash before the two contemplated their next moves. Deciding to throw the first punch, Naruto stabbed forward. Aain barely dodged the blonde's attack before landing a blow on Naruto's right shoulder. Touche, Naruto began to say, only to be cut off when Aain struck him in the right hamstring. Don't get distracted, Naruto Kun. Aain mocked before pulling back and preparing for another strike. Hearing the rhythm of Akain's footwork, Naruto grabbed onto the girl's right wrist, successfully predicting her attack before forcing her to drop her Bakken. Before Naruto was able to end the fight there and then, he was forced to loosen his grip over Akain's wrist due to a leg sweep from the girl, knocking Naruto over and forcing the blonde to drop his Bakken. And Naruto thought, slightly smiling as he picked himself up before assuming a taijutsu stance. Is this where it starts up again? Not unless you surrender, NOW, Aain purred, assuming her taijutsu stance. No chance, Naruto replied, hearing Akain's light and swift footsteps approaching him. Shit, I got distracted again. Within seconds, Naruto ducked under a roundhouse kick from Aain before jumping up to avoid a follow-up leg sweep from the same girl. Not wanting to be placed on the back foot, Naruto caught Aain by the ankle before tripping her by sweeping at her standing foot, causing her to fall over. Before the girl was able to completely fall over, Aain placed her hands on the ground before using her arms like a spring, launching herself up and kicking Naruto in the jaw, knocking him out of bounds. That's enough. The referee declared, Aain wins. Aain ceased her actions before running over to help Naruto up. Aain began to mock, Aain 125, Naruto-kun 0. Naruto rubbed his chin before turning himself towards where he assumed Aain was. I'll get you one day, Naruto promised, probably should take a shower now, see you later. Aain nodded before watching as Naruto walked towards the door. Suddenly, Aain fell to her knees before beginning to cough repeatedly, coughing up blood in many intervals. Aain-sama. The referee yelled in worry, running over towards the girl as Naruto did the same. Aain-chan. Naruto yelled, are you alright? I'm sorry, Aain muttered, coughing several more times. I should have told you. Don't tell me now. Naruto yelled, I'm getting a medic. Naruto finished before running out of the room. Hours, Later Shogun's office. Mifune looked down on his papers before hearing a knock on the door. Enter. Mifune yelled. Naruto entered the room, having just replaced the cloth obscuring his eyes, the previous cloth having been stained in his blood. Ah, Naruto, Mifune began to say, attempting to steer the conversation as far away from the earlier incident as possible. What can I do for you? I assume you're here. Mifune-sensei, Naruto murmured, cutting the Shogun off. Why didn't you tell me? Mifune sighed, look, Naruto, it wasn't that I didn't want to tell you, I fully intended on telling you, it's just that. What? Naruto said with a scoff, she didn't want you to tell me. She didn't want you to worry, Mifune revealed, you two grew close in the last 2 years, you were the only one that she had ever talked to that was around her age, you were one of her only escapes from the crippling reality that she faced, the other is watching the northern lights. There is a high chance that should you go to the balcony tonight you would find her there. How long does she have left? Naruto asked, his voice slowly cracking up. After a bit of hesitation, Mifune came clean. From today on, about 6 months. Why didn't she tell me? Naruto asked. I can't speak for her, Mifune began to say, but for me I have taught you everything I know, you've taught yourself everything your heritage has to offer, so it's about time you answer a key question for yourself, what is it that you truly want? Do you want to stay here as a samurai, worrying over someone's health and grieving over their loss, or do you want to spend the rest of your life searching for your true calling in life? Whatever choice you make, I leave it in your hands, Naruto, for you are, and always will be, my greatest student. Naruto said nothing before promptly leaving the room. MIDNIGHT balcony. Naruto snuck up to the balcony, it was deathly silent, a scene which would have convinced anyone else of the lack of anyone there. Fancy seeing you here tonight, Aain said, looking out into the night sky and towards the multicolored aurora. I always loved looking at these lights, I wish you were able to see them too. To Akain's surprise, Naruto held onto her wrist before moving her hand onto the cloth wrapped around his eyes. Why don't you let me see? Naruto asked, metaphorically asking Aain to remove the cloth. Are you sure? Aain asked, for 2 years you always said that you wanted to never show your eyes. I'm not the only one hiding things here, am I? Naruto joked, causing Aain to giggle softly. Well, you got me there, Aain admitted, slowly and carefully undoing the knots around the cloth. Fully taking the cloth off of Naruto's eyes, Aain saw the true nature of Naruto's eyes for the first time. Placing her palm against her mouth, Aain could only gasp while looking at Naruto's pair of eyes, a long scar across his right eye, while a large burn mark surrounded his left one. You once asked me why I would help you, a stranger, Naruto began to say, tears slowly streaming down his face. The truth is I know what it's like to be beaten up like that, to be ganged up upon and beaten to an inch of your life. It's scarring. I lost my eyes in an alley years ago. I wasn't about to allow anyone to suffer in an alley, even less so if more than one assailant was involved. I am scared, Aain admitted, tears starting to flow out of her eyes. I don't want to go. Sensing her fear, Naruto pulled Aain into a hug before placing his forehead against her own. I don't want to go, Aain pleaded. I love you. Hearing this, Naruto's tears began to flow more furiously. I love you too. Aain pulled away from Naruto's hug, wiping the tears from both of their faces, before standing with Naruto towards the Aurora. I wish we had more time, Naruto. I beg of you, when I'm gone forget about me, find someone new, be happy, you deserve it. I can't do that, Naruto replied. Please do it for me, Aain pleaded. Naruto attempted to argue before Aain cut him off. Promise me. Please. Aain begged, tears streaming down her face. I promise, Naruto assured, holding Aain close to his face as tears began to fill his eyes once more. Thank you, Naruto-kun, Aain thanked, not pulling away from Naruto's grasp, for providing me of my final happy memory. And that is, Aain-chan? Naruto asked. The memory of my first love, Aain stated, dozing off while silently crying into the night. The next year, it rained heavily that day, weather suitable for the occasion. Naruto walked by her grave, almost cursing himself for not being able to ever see her face. His eyes brimming with tears, Naruto placed a neat bouquet of hyacinth on Akain's grave before placing his mask over his face and walking out of the land of iron, promising that he would find his way. Present day, Naruto blocked an attack from his masked assailant before landing on his feet, his opponent standing across him. Who are you? A feminine voice asked. Me? Naruto asked, as in what I do with my time. What do you think? The masked shinobi asked back. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, Naruto replied. I am a blind ronin and I'm trying to find my way home. So, you aren't a Konoha shinobi? The shinobi asked. Nope, Naruto replied. Then I apologize for my actions before, the shinobi stated, bowing slightly. These Konoha shinobi have been quite the nuisance. I'll say, Naruto agreed. Now, who are you? Forest. Through her eye holes in her mask, the masked shinobi stared analytically at Naruto, taking note of his masked appearance and the sword in his hands, his firm footwork and precise movements, making her doubt his apparent blindness. I'm afraid I'm unable to disclose the information of my name, the shinobi replied. Naruto-san. That's fair enough, I suppose, Naruto replied, sheathing Muramasa. Why are you here? On business, the shinobi replied, causing Naruto to lighten up as she did. Business, Naruto asked, as in you're employed. Are you guys hiring? Are you a mercenary? The shinobi asked. Well, not quite, I did say I'm a ronin, Naruto replied. The difference being what? Exactly? The shinobi asked. Well, I would say that ronin are a lot more trained compared to mercenaries, Naruto replied, not to brag, but I would like to take on a job that involves combat, particularly ones that involve either assassinations or drawn-out fights. Do I look like an employer to you? The shinobi deadpanned, before immediately retracting her statement. I'm sorry. It's alright, Naruto stated, removing his mask, revealing the blindfold-like cloth covering his long blinded eyes underneath. Have you ever considered what makes people strong? The shinobi asked, similarly removing her mask now that she was certain that Naruto was blind. Not enough to care, really, Naruto replied. You've been through a lot, haven't you? The shinobi asked, reaching out her hand only for Naruto to dodge out of the way. I'm sorry, but I've been through too much, Naruto replied. For anyone to touch me now. That's what everyone thinks, the shinobi replied. No one expects themselves to suddenly fall, to suddenly fail, and to suddenly die, not until they do. You're not exactly wrong, Naruto replied. Anyways, could you bring me to this employer of yours? The shinobi sighed, before placing her mask over her face, just as Naruto did the same. Come with me, the shinobi instructed. I don't suppose I have to state each direction for you? You do not, Naruto replied, smirking under his mask. I can sense you, not enough to know everything about you, but enough for me to keep up with your every movement, just lead the way and I'll follow. So that's how he could block every attack I perform, the shinobi thought, leaping away, as Naruto followed her. So, Kit, Kurama began to ask, why did you lie to her? Excuse me? Naruto asked back. You could tell more than her movements based on your sensory perception, Kurama muttered. You know her name, it's Hakuyuki. You know about her bloodline, it's ice release. You know her age, it's the same as yours. You know that she feels uneased, but doesn't hold any specific animosity toward you. I wouldn't just lay all my cards on the table, Naruto replied dryly. When are you gonna stop? Kurama asked. Naruto mentally asked. What's the reason you keep engaging in these missions? Kurama questioned. You keep killing, and for what? Money? I don't think so. It makes me feel at ease, Naruto replied, a slight bit of guilt present in his mind. So you're saying that you kill others just as a way to unleash your anger against the world? Kurama asked. Is it? It is, Naruto replied. Not to be rude or brash, Kurama began to reply, and I'm in no position to give such advice, but you need to, how should I say, broaden your horizons. There's nothing out there for me, Naruto replied, the branch under his feet springing up as if to launch him forwards. And that's the problem, Kurama stated. You've left the land of iron, you've traveled around the elemental nations, you've renounced every allegiance you had prior, besides your twisted form of Bushido, but you haven't moved on. You never left to find anyone who would care about you. I did find someone, Naruto stated, the branch under his feet cracking as he did. The cane's gone now, Kurama replied harshly, been gone for a year or so. Do not invoke her name, Naruto stated, gritting his teeth. And that's all a part of life, Kurama explained, and you're not living your life. You're just wandering around, hoping for something to finally put an end to your sorry existence. You're afraid that the next mission I go on, Naruto began to say, that I'll fail. No, Naruto, Kurama began to say, I'm afraid that you'll want to. Perhaps it's time for us all to stop hiding behind a mask and finally face reality for what it is. You have no right, Naruto asserted, snapping a branch he leaped atop of. To tell me how I live my life. I'm not telling you how to live your life, Kurama assured as he faded into the back of Naruto's consciousness. But I'll tell you this, you are not invincible, and you are not worthless either. You're just a scared and angsty kid who thinks that he's one or the other or both. Naruto leaped across the forest, branches breaking under his feet as he contemplated what Kurama had said. We're here, Haku started, as Naruto stopped landed on the ground. Let me just talk to my mentor for a bit, he'll help you get a job from our employer. Naruto nodded, walking into a small cabin behind Haku. Haku, who is this? A gruff voice asked as Naruto sensed an ominous presence behind him. You didn't bring one of Gato's men, did you? No, Zabuza-sama, Haku replied. This is Naruto Uzumaki, and he wants a job from Gato. What's with that mask, kid? Zabuza asked, turning to Naruto. I don't know, to hide my face. Naruto asked nonchalantly. No shit, Zabuza replied, but what are you hiding, exactly? Naruto shrugged, pulling the mask off of his face. I'm blind, Naruto replied, this cloth hides my scars. I sense chakra, in case you're wondering. I see, Zabuza stated, I take to it that you're a shinobi. Nope, more of a ronin, Naruto stated. Now, who's this boss of yours? The boss of a large shipping company, Gato, Zabuza explained. I'm too injured to go, so Haku will take you there. Yes, Zabuza-sama, Haku replied, before turning to Naruto. I'll wait for you outside. No need for that, Naruto replied, I'm leaving now. Outside of the cabin, Naruto and Haku placed their respective masks on, before turning towards the open forest. Just so you know, Haku began to say, do not address me by my name while we're there, alright. No problem, Naruto stated, leaping away with Haku. Gato's hideout. An hour later. You two are just disappointing me more and more. Gato yelled. I asked for you two to kill that bridge builder, and what's this? You bring me this blind boy who demands a job. Well, in retrospect, you would see that I can best all of your mercenaries, Naruto replied. We'll see about that one, Gato sneered, turning to the mercenaries behind him. You two. Throw this boy out. If you want to cut his limbs off first. The two mercenaries laughed before unsheathing their swords and walking towards Naruto. Look out. Haku warned. Naruto sighed as the two swords neared his shoulders. Within a heartbeat, Naruto unsheathed Muramasa before slicing the hands of both mercenaries from their wrists, causing blood to splatter across the ground as both mercenaries screamed in pain. Already sweating upon witnessing Naruto's display, Gato found himself nearing a heart attack when Naruto pointed Muramasa at his neck. So about that job, Naruto muttered as if nothing had just taken place prior. Why, you're hired? Gato stammered, fearing for his life. What does this job entail? Naruto asked coldly, tightening his grip over Muramasa as the edge of the blade glowed red. I'll give you 5 fucking seconds. He seems rather formidable, Haku thought, slightly shaking, rather terrifying, too. Deal with the Konoha shinobi. Gato ordered, I'll pay you 500,000 ryo. Now then, it wasn't that hard, was it? Naruto asked, sheathing Muramasa, before turning to Haku. We're done here, we can leave now. Haku nodded, before leaping out with Naruto, leaving behind a terrified Gato, with Haku smirking under his mask, now that the greedy shipping magnate had finally gotten his comeuppance. Outside Tezuna's home an hour later, Naruto squatted atop the roof of Tezuna's home, attempting to calibrate a strategy to deal with Team 7 from Haku's prior given information. Let's see here, Naruto thought, attempting to recall what Haku had said. A girl that's useless and only screams that should be Sakura, seems like she hasn't changed one bit, a boy that seems quite competent as a shinobi, but is too blinded by his arrogance to be of much threat should be Sasuke, he's always had that stick up his ass a boy that stands still and draws on scrolls before the ink comes to life, don't know about that one, but he should be a simple target as well. Naruto placed a hand on the roof of the house, from what I can tell, Inu's resting, while Sasuke and that other boy are still awake, Sakura's doing fuck all, this should be easy, then got lucky with the fact that Inu's in no shape to fight, rather dishonorable but still, a job's a job. Tsunami placed a plate into the sink while Sasuke sat at the dining table. Suddenly, a knock was heard at the door. Instinctively, Tsunami walked over to the door before opening it, placing herself face to face with Naruto. "Oh?" Tsunami asked, "Who are you?" "Me?" Naruto asked. "That's not important now then," Naruto continued, unsheathing Muramasa as its blade glowed with blue luminescence. "Where are the Konoha shinobi? If you're looking for them, you've found one of them." Sasuke exclaimed, walking out to face Naruto. "Gato's got a lot of nerve sending people to Tezuna's house." "Oh, don't worry," Naruto continued, "I'm not here to kill you, I'm just here to convince you to leave, so to say killing you, well, that's just the last option I will opt for, so please make this easier for me." "Oh please," Sasuke smirked cockily, "we completely embarrassed those two runts Gato sent first, what makes you think you'll stand much of a chance?" "Well," Naruto muttered, as Sakura and another walked out of the house. "Sasuke-cha." Sasuke and Sakura seemed to pale at Naruto's calling of Sasuke's name. "How do you know my name?" Sasuke demanded, pulling out a kunai. "Autumn," Naruto thought, successfully manipulating Sasuke's emotions. "I guess you all could say," Naruto began to say, as he appeared behind Sasuke, "I'm not like those you've beaten before." Before Sasuke was able to react, Naruto bashed Sasuke in the back of his neck with the bottom of Muramasa's handle, knocking the Uchiha to the ground before turning his attention to Sakura. The pink-haired girl shook in fear as she held up a kunai. Without another thought, Sakura ran at Naruto, armed with the kunai. The blonde smirked before jumping over the girl. "Kakashi-san." Tsunami screamed, waking the wounded Kakashi, "There's someone outside. He's fighting your students." "What?" Kakashi asked in shock, "What does he look like?" "He wears a mask and carries a sword," Tsunami explained. I'm not ready to fight yet," Kakashi muttered, forcing himself to stand. "I suppose I'll have to negotiate." Naruto leaped over Sakura before kicking her in the back of her head, knocking her out cold. Landing on his feet, Naruto turned to face the last member of Team 7, pointing Muramasa's tip towards the boy. "Sai!" Kakashi yelled, "Stand back." Finally, Naruto muttered, "You show yourselves. Abusa told me quite a bit about you, but I'm afraid I'm in no mood to play at the moment. If this is about me, keep my students out of this." Kakashi yelled. "I'm afraid you're gravely mistaken, Haddock," Naruto continued, planting his foot on Sasuke's back while holding the tip of Muramasa over Sakura's neck. "Your move." "Look, what is it that you want?" Kakashi asked. "I merely want to fulfill a contract," Naruto explained. "You see, a certain faddis is willing to pay me 500,000 ryo to rid of you guys from the wave, so please do cooperate. I don't fancy murdering defenseless children." "Unfortunately," Kakashi began to say, "we're here on a contract as well. Konoha has been paid by Tazuna-san and the wave in general to protect the bridge builder from any potential threats. Look, I'll put it in simple terms. Do not put me on a pedestal of being uneducated, Haddock," Naruto demanded. "Just because I am willing to work for Gato does not mean that I do not know about the world surrounding me." "I apologize for that," Kakashi stated. "This bridge will break Gato's stranglehold over the wave's economy, so it has to be built for the good of the citizens living in the wave, so I ask of you, abandon your mission." "And why would I do that?" Naruto asked. "If I can get 500,000 ryo that easily, why should I just stop?" "In that case," Kakashi negotiated, "what if Konoha had doubled your pay for you to stay neutral in this conflict?" "Sign the contract," Naruto demanded. Begrudgingly, Kakashi withdrew a scroll before obtaining a contract form from thin air before signing it. "Consider our score settled," Naruto muttered, sheathing Muramasa, Inu. Kakashi's blood ran cold as Naruto disappeared into the darkness, leaving the silver-haired Jonin to wallow in the guilt stemming from his previous inaction. "Who was that?" Sasuke asked, rubbing the back of his neck as he stood up. "Well," Kakashi began to reply, "you could say that he's an old friend. Zabuza's hideout." Without the cloth tied around his eyes or mask on, Naruto landed in front of the door to Zabuza's hideout, knocking on the door before waiting for someone to open it. Just as a set of footsteps approached a door, Naruto suddenly remembered that his eyes had not been obscured. Moving quickly, Naruto placed his foot against the door, preventing it from being opened as he tied the cloth around his eyes. "Why do you wear the cloth and mask anyways?" Haku asked, assumingly looking out of the window. I think you would look quite cute without them. Without so much as to spare a smile, Naruto placed the mask over his face before replying in a nonchalant tone. That is none of your concern, Naruto brushed off. She's right, you know. Kurama cut in. Be quiet, Naruto mentally remarked. Well, you don't need to be rude about it, do you? Haku asked. Now then, how about you bring your foot off of the door so that I can let you in? Naruto nodded before placing his foot down, allowing Haku to open the door before he walked in. So, I assume your job went well? Haku asked. Well, not quite, Naruto replied. I kind of just switched allegiances halfway through. Konoha offered me 1 million ryo to stay neutral throughout them being in the wave. That's interesting, Haku replied. They didn't seem like the sort of people who would have done it. Well, that's not all there is to it, Naruto asserted. Kakashi was wounded, and with him wounded, the other 3 with him have no chance to stand against me, leading them to have no chance but to negotiate. No one stays the strongest forever, Haku stated. I never said I was the strongest, Naruto replied. I was just saying that the 3 of them are not as strong as me. A lot can change in 2 weeks, Naruto, Haku asserted. I believe that you know of that. You think I don't? Naruto asked, standing up. I lived perfectly content at one point in my life. For 3 years, I was allowed the home I never had. I had friends, a teacher, a place for me to forget about the past, and within one day everything changed. What changed? Haku asked. If you don't mind me asking, of course. Do you want to know? Naruto asked back, his voice slightly fading. You can choose not to tell me if you don't want to, Haku murmured, but I will say that just talking to someone will make you feel better. Naruto paused for a moment, hesitating on whether or not he should tell Haku about Aain. Kurama, Naruto thought. Oh? Now you want my advice? Kurama mocked, how ironic. Should I tell her? Naruto mentally asked. As I said before, and as I've always told you, Kurama began to say, it's time you move on. Naruto sighed, before turning towards Haku. I'm sorry, Haku, Naruto stated, standing up before walking towards the door, but that will be all, tonight. Before the ice user was even able to stand up to stop the blind ronin, Naruto had already walked out of the door and vanished into the night, leaving behind a confused and concerned Haku, who could notice something shining on the ground. Are these, Haku thought, squatting down onto the ground, before looking at the droplets of water on the ground and the grass, Naruto's tears. Naruto, with tears flowing out of his eyes, Naruto leapt across the forest, leaping atop of branches and trees, his painful memories in the past 3 years quickly flooding back into his mind, especially in regards to Akain's untimely demise. Stopping in the center of a large opening in the forest, Naruto fell to his knees, attempting to enforce all he had learned in the years prior and suppress his emotions. His tears ceasing temporarily, Naruto unsheathed Muramasa as its blade glowed red. Naruto walked towards a large tree before slashing at the tree repeatedly in an attempt to break his thoughts from his painful past. I always loved looking at these lights. I wish you were able to see them too. Akain's words rang in his head. Naruto took a deep breath before jumping up, backflipping as he cut off several branches of the tree. Landing on his feet once again, Naruto plunged the full length of his katana into the trunk of the tree before withdrawing the blade and slashing at the tree, hacking off a good portion of the trunk. I'm scared. I don't want to go, Naruto recalled. Gritting his teeth, Naruto landed a series of 3 airborne kicks onto the trunk of the tree, knocking some pieces of wood off of the trunk. Landing on his feet once more, Naruto flung Muramasa into the tree before throwing a series of kicks and punches onto the tree, bloodying his knuckles upon contact with the rough texture of the tree's trunk. I wish we had more time, Naruto. I beg of you, when I'm gone forget about me, find someone new, be happy, you deserve it. Akain's words rang once more in the blonde's head. Holding back the tears in his eyes, Naruto planted his feet firmly onto the ground before pulling Muramasa out of the tree's trunk. No, Naruto thought, I do not deserve to be happy. I didn't love you enough. I didn't appreciate you enough. I didn't appreciate your love enough. I deserve to be punished. Tightening his grip over Muramasa to the extreme, Naruto swung at the tree's base, nearly slashing through the entire tree. Stopping just short of cutting through the entire trunk of the tree, Naruto plunged Muramasa onto the ground before smashing his fist into the trunk. Thank you, Naruto-kun, for providing me with my final happy memory, the memory of my first love, Naruto recalled. With tears very much flowing down his face, Naruto pulled Muramasa from the ground, unearthing large parts of soil and grass, before slashing at the trunk, slicing the entire tree right in half, causing the ground to rumble as the upper part of the tree fell onto the ground below it. The tree before him now completely cut down, Naruto dropped Muramasa before falling to his knees, unable to restrain his tears any longer. Naruto-kun, came Akain's voice. This time, however, it had been as if Naruto had not heard it through memory, but as if it were in reality. You're not real, Naruto replied. Come on, now, Naruto-kun, Aain replied, is that really how you want to treat me? Take off that mask, you don't need it anymore. What do you think you'll see if I do? Naruto asked. The face of the one I love, Aain stated, as her ethereal form placed her hand on Naruto's shoulder. Naruto complied, pulling his Oni mask off of his face before flinging it onto the ground. The one you once loved is gone, Naruto stated. He is dead. He died when you did. He could not bear to see a world where you did not coexist with him. What's left now is the one who killed him. That's what you want to believe, Naruto-kun, Aain continued. The one I love is alive. No, he's dead, and he could not have continued to exist for this long, Naruto stated, standing up. You're not real. Why, you're just a memory. Maybe, Aain stated as she began to vanish into Naruto's mind, but I'm your memory. With his vision of Aain now fully faded, Naruto was left alone once again, his tears flooding his eyes. 12 days later, Naruto found himself in a new location, this time a location that he had once considered hostile, the house of a bridge builder and the current refuge of a team of shinobi from Konoha, Team 7. Sitting outside of the house, Naruto patiently waited for the one who had invited him in the first place. Before long, Sasuke approached the blind ronin. What do you want? Naruto asked. I swear, Sasuke muttered, completely ignoring the blonde's question, I will make you pay one day. I didn't even take you seriously, Naruto stated, enraging the raven-haired shinobi further. It was never personal between us, it never was personal between any of us. You? Sasuke yelled, jumping at the blonde, who stood up and sidestepped the last Uchiha. Pathetic, Naruto mocked, as Sakura came out of the house. It's you again. Sakura exclaimed, running to Sakura's side. Great, the Shinobi B team is here again, Naruto thought. At least Sai seems smart enough to not join his teammates. Before Naruto was allowed to muse further, Naruto bent towards the left, causing Sasuke to lunge into the ground, before the blonde bent his body towards the right, causing 2 kunai from Sakura to whiz by his masked face. Before the combatants were able to continue, Kakashi quickly arrived at the scene, blocking a punch from Sasuke before catching a kunai from Sakura. What did I say about not engaging anyone without my approval? Kakashi asked, anger apparent in his voice. Get into the house. Squirming under the Jonin's anger, Sasuke and Sakura rushed into the house, fearing Kakashi's wrath. With the nuisance now taken care of, Kakashi turned towards Naruto, before bowing slightly. My apologies, Kakashi remarked, you've left quite the bad impression among them that day. Naruto said nothing, merely jumping on the roof of the house, as Kakashi followed. How have you been? Kakashi began to ask, guilt clear in his voice. Naruto. How do you think it went? Naruto asked scornfully. Kakashi sighed, listen, Naruto, when you left, Konoha lost its weapon. Naruto asked, that consequence was as clear as day, do not attempt to guilt trip me into returning. It's not that simple, Kakashi stated, many things have happened, Naruto. Naruto lifted his head, fully intent on listening to Kakashi's assessment of Konoha's current situation. Suna has broken the alliance, Kakashi began to say. Konoha now stands alone, and while it remains dominant militarily, it no longer has its greatest deterrent, an especially pressing matter considering Iwa and Kumo's renewed aggression. That's not all, the third Hokage. Upon the mentioning of the old man, Naruto became fully attentive to the conversation, herein having been one of the only people who had ever been concerned regarding his situation, whilst he had been in Konoha. The third Hokage is ailing, Kakashi revealed. He regards your supposed death as his greatest failure and would do anything to gain your forgiveness, but he could never have done that without knowing you were still alive. His health took a large hit from this. To Naruto, he had no idea how to feel. He had cut all of his ties with Konoha, or any village for that matter, so he shouldn't feel any remorse regarding any residents of Konoha. But for whatever reason, the news of the third Hokage's ailing health cut deep into his heart, as if someone had twisted a dagger into it. Anything, in particular, that I can help with? Naruto asked, actually, rephrasing that a bit, anything I could help with that doesn't involve rejoining Konoha. Strangely enough, yes, Kakashi stated, you see Team 7 has a secondary mission in the wave. We have received reports that the thief of the scroll of sealing has fled to the land of waves. Team 7 was originally supposed to investigate these reports, but since you're so willing, I don't suppose you mind. I'll do it on my terms, Naruto replied, not Konoha's. And when you get back there, never expect me to go back. Before Kakashi had been able to continue onwards, Naruto vanished from sight, leaving the Cyclopean shinobi alone on the roof. What have I done? Kakashi thought, his face buried in his hands. The next night, with some bit of hesitation, Naruto knocked on the door of Zabuza's hideout, waiting for the door to inevitably open. Before long, the door flung open, as Haku walked out, only to be pleasantly surprised by the sight of a masked Naruto. Naruto? Haku asked, I thought you left. Well, plans change, Naruto replied, there's some business I have to take care of, just wanted to check in. To Naruto's complete surprise, Haku embraced the blonde. Where did this come from? Naruto asked, pulling away from the hug. Well, you seemed quite somber, last we met, Haku explained, and people do say that a hug can make everything better. It doesn't, Naruto asserted, nothing can heal the wounds that have been dealt to my heart, and nothing ever will. I'm sorry to hear that, Haku thought, it's as if he doesn't care anymore. If I recall, you and Zabuza plan on attacking the bridge tomorrow, don't you? Naruto asked. Do not worry, I have reason to stay neutral in the upcoming conflict. That's right, Haku replied, but always remember no one is born powerful, for those who are truly strong become strong because of the connections they have, especially if they have people they wish to protect. I once did, Naruto stated, turning around. They are gone now, and I'm too far gone to change now. It's never too late, Naruto, Haku started, taking a few steps forward. A person can be all-powerful, a person can be all-knowing, a person may as well be completely invincible, but no person is ever above learning a lesson. I bid you good luck and farewell, Naruto stated, completely disregarding Haku's final statement before vanishing from sight. I hope we'll meet again, Haku thought sadly, Naruto. The next day, Naruto perched atop a rooftop, attempting to determine the identity of the supposed thief based on the chakra supply of everyone present in the town that morning. Before his hunt could begin, Naruto had to determine what rank of shinobi the thief would need to be on, as well as filter out all the shinobi he had already met prior. Assuming that this shinobi left traces, which would explain how anyone found out he had escaped to the land of waves, Naruto thought, in that case, he couldn't have been a genin. No genin would be foolish enough to attempt this task, a jonin wouldn't have left much of a trace, he would have probably been a chunin then, but a chunin wouldn't have been able to use the jutsu contained within the scroll, assuming all these variables are taken into consideration. It's not far out of the realms of possibility that he is working for someone far more powerful than an ordinary jonin. Naruto smirked before placing his mask over his face. The hunt begins now. 2 hours later, there is a strangely large amount of shinobi here, Naruto mentioned, although they are all just genin that all smell of snakes. I've got a bad feeling regarding who might be involved, Naruto, Kurama stated. Orochimaru, Naruto determined, I think I found the one who stole the scroll as well, a Konoha-born shinobi. Be careful, Naruto, Kurama warned, as Naruto stood up, you are no match for Orochimaru, do not face him in direct combat. I'll be alright, Kurama, Naruto stated, by the way, those eyes you mentioned. You'll get them next month, Kurama replied, for now, focus on the task you're on. Naruto gave no reply, merely leaping across the rooftops in an attempt to catch up with the supposed thief. Strange hideout. Naruto dived into a bush in front of the large gathering of shinobi, most of them originating from the Sound Village, a village which Naruto had only recently heard about. The Chunin walked into the cave, where a monster source of chakra stood within, with the remaining army of genin and chunin standing guard outside of the cave. Alrighty, Naruto thought, attempting to come up with a strategy to infiltrate the cage. Fuck it. Halting his strategizing, Naruto leaped out of the bush, mask on face and with Muramasa in his hand, taking all shinobi present by complete surprise. As if a force of nature, the shinobi stood defenseless as Naruto tore through the large crowd, slashing and hacking away at all the shinobi present, cutting off limbs left and right as blood splattered across the ground, staining Naruto's cloak and mask. Taking a short moment to breathe, Naruto lifted his head, his grip over Muramasa tightening further. Mizuki. Naruto roared, show yourself. Naruto continued his carnage, murdering many more shinobi before Mizuki made his presence known. Who are you? Mizuki demanded to know, how did you find us? Where is the scroll? Naruto asked, knocking a shinobi out with the back of his fist without turning his head. That has nothing to do with you, Mizuki sneered, slowly walking towards Naruto. Killing the last of the sound shinobi, Naruto turned towards Mizuki, wiping the bloodstains off of his mask, before raising Muramasa against Mizuki, the blue-haired shinobi pulling 2 kunai out from his pouches. You know, Mizuki began to say, it's been a long time since I had a good fight. Before Mizuki was able to react further, Naruto vanished from sight, just as Mizuki felt a cold metallic edge pressing against his back. Fearfully turning his eyes, Mizuki came face to face with Naruto pressing Muramasa's tip into his back. Not if the fight ends before it begins, Naruto stated, before plunging Muramasa into the shinobi's chest, ending the traitor's pathetic life. Wiping the blood from his hands and mask, Naruto sheathed Muramasa before walking into Orochimaru's lair. Taking advantage of the dark lair, Naruto stuck closely to the wall of the cave-like structure. Most impressive, Orochimaru muttered, making it clear that he knew of Naruto's current location. What is it that you want? The scroll of sealing, Naruto stated, where is it? Orochimaru lifted the scroll into the air. This. Orochimaru mocked, come and get it. Taking this as his cue, Naruto unsheathed Muramasa before slashing at the snake Sannin, missing as Orochimaru ducked to the side. Undeterred by this, Naruto continued to slash at Orochimaru, only for him to miss every attack he attempted, with Orochimaru dodging every one of them with relative ease. You've done well to get to this point, Orochimaru muttered, grabbing onto Muramasa by the katana's blade, you've made quite a name for yourself. Applying further pressure on the blade, Naruto was forced to cut into the wall of the cave as Orochimaru let go of the katana's blade, causing Naruto to stagger around slightly before pulling the blade from the cave's wall. Attempting to locate his opponent via sensing the snake Sannin's chakra, Naruto found himself rudely interrupted as he found himself constricted, not by ropes, but by 4 venomous snakes. You've become strong, haven't you, Uzumaki? Orochimaru asked, shocking Naruto. How? Naruto demanded to know. You see, Orochimaru began to gloat, you haven't covered your tracks as well as you may think. What's the end goal, Orochimaru? Naruto asked, attempting to stall for time, why do you want the scroll? Well, it's simple, isn't it? Orochimaru began to say, before throwing Naruto against the wall. You tried to get me to monologue, didn't you? His plan now having failed, Naruto attempted to rise to his feet, only for Orochimaru to fling a kunai, the bladed projectile embedding itself into Naruto's foot. Gritting his teeth through the pain, Naruto stood up, blade in hand as an orange aura began to circulate him. And here's where it gets interesting, Orochimaru muttered, withdrawing the sword of Kusanagi. His movements now a blur, Naruto dashed towards Orochimaru, slashing at the Sannin, only for the snake-like shinobi to easily block and parry the attack with his blade, even managing to graze the top of Naruto's right shoulder. Quickly jumping back a step, Naruto repositioned himself, before ducking under a slash from the Sannin, before slashing back at Orochimaru, only for the shinobi to dodge effortlessly. It's no use, Naruto thought, breathing heavily, he's toying with me, I stand no chance. Perhaps I've overestimated you, Naruto Uzumaki, Orochimaru mocked, dashing towards the blonde. Not yet wanting to give up on his task, Naruto narrowly dodged a series of slashes from Orochimaru, before clashing with Orochimaru in the center of the lair, sparks flying across the lair as their blades ground against each other. Come on then. Orochimaru taunted, is this all the Kyuubi's power has to offer, the manifestation of your hatred? Access your hatred, feel it course through your veins, and use it to strike me down. In a moment of ingenuity, Naruto formed a clone next to himself, distracting Orochimaru for 3 seconds at the very least, allowing the blonde to cut a small wound onto Orochimaru's lower leg, landing his first successful attack against the snake Sannin. Orochimaru deliberately took a knee before the blonde, before blocking a slash from Naruto, letting the blonde know just how outmatched he still was. Impressive, Uzumaki, Orochimaru stated with a smirk, before landing a punch against the blonde, breaking the lower parts of Naruto's mask, as the blonde was launched against the wall of the cave, breaking it under the force of the crash, and creating a new exit to the cave, one which led to the open sea. But this is the end of the line. Gritting his teeth and working through the pain, Naruto stood up once more, tightening what remained of his mask and sheathing Muramasa, before slowly walking towards Orochimaru. Without warning, Naruto dashed towards Orochimaru, ducking under a slash before standing up behind the Sannin, only for a snake to wrap around his neck and launch him towards the hole which overlooked the sea below, as waves crashed against the ground of which he laid on. Attempting to get up again, Naruto quickly gave up his efforts to stand as a blade was pointed towards him. You've begun to understand your potential, Orochimaru acknowledged, as he slowly pushed Naruto to the edge of the cliff-like structure. I'll make you an offer, one which allows you to continue to survive. Naruto stood up, his feet on the edge of the cliff. Join me, serve me, and I'll help you harness your potential and grant you the power you could have never imagined you could have ever gained. Orochimaru offered, with our combined might, we can burn Konoha to the ground. And if I don't? Naruto asked. Then, you shall perish, Orochimaru sneered, and Konoha will fall all the same. A long time ago I made an oath, Naruto began to say, one which I swore to always do what was right, and this is not right. That shan't matter, Orochimaru stated, the tip of his blade pressing against Naruto's throat. Join me, or perish, and this time, no one will remember your name. With his newly exposed mouth, Naruto smirked, spitting into the Sannin's face before falling back first into the water below, presumably plummeting to his death into the sea below. Orochimaru walked away, his opponent seemingly having been defeated and left to drown. Unbeknownst to the snake Sannin, the blonde had been hanging onto Muramasa, which he had plunged into the edge of the cliff seconds prior. In between deep breaths, Naruto smirked as he stored the scroll of seals into his cloak's pocket, having switched out Orochimaru's scroll with a fake earlier. Upon noting the disappearance of Orochimaru's chakra, Naruto slowly climbed back up to the top of the cliff, falling to the ground from sheer exhaustion. Now then, Naruto, Kurama spoke up, do you intend on giving Kakashi the scroll now? Or do you intend on giving it to them later? Who said I'm giving it back? Naruto asked back. What are you gonna do with it? Kurama asked, you can't read it. I know, Naruto replied, standing up, but it serves as a good bargaining chip. Hearing quite a bit of commotion in the distance, Naruto was able to hear a familiar voice, the voice of a certain fat shipping magnate, a fat bastard known to all as Geto, Naruto's former employer. Naruto, Kurama mentioned, are you sure this is what you want to do? Give me a second, Kurama, Naruto stated, placing what's left of his mask back onto his face, before vanishing once again. Half an hour later, having finished off what was left of Geto and his army, Naruto stumbled across the land, his previous injuries sustained against Orochimaru, having been amplified by the several miscellaneous wounds caused to him by the large gang of mercenaries hired by Geto. With blood flowing from the multiple wounds he had sustained, Naruto slowly walked towards the bridge, intending to bargain for a better price with Kakashi in exchange for the scroll of sealing. Before long, Naruto shot up, having felt a strange spike in chakra. That's Kakashi, Naruto thought. It seems he just killed Zabuza and Haku's now on the run. Those two nitwits are looking for her with Sai. Are you intent on helping her? Kurama asked. It's not my problem, Kurama, Naruto thought, adding on to the fact that I'm too injured to do anything. I could heal you, Kurama offered. Just leave it, Kurama, Naruto asserted. Naruto paused, coming short of the forest he had first met Haku in which he felt the presence of Sasuke, Sakura, and Sai's chakra, as well as the seemingly weakened chakra of Haku. Not moving into the forest, Naruto sat down in front of it, intent on waiting for Kakashi. Hey, Naruto-kun. Came Akain's voice, as an ethereal form seemingly manifested itself in front of the blonde. Naruto refused to reply, attempting to ignore his memory of Akain. I missed you, Aain stated, but to see the one I loved acting so cold against me, it's really hard for me. The one you loved is dead, Naruto replied. No, Aain replied, placing her ethereal hand onto Naruto's exposed cheek, the cold and heartless murderer is dead. The one I love is very much alive. Naruto's voice cracked, attempting to contain his tears. Why, you're just a memory. Your memory, Aain corrected, please go back to who you once were. It's too late, Naruto stated, you're gone. I may be long gone, Aain replied, but what I stood for, and more importantly, what we stood for and fought for will always continue to remain. Naruto. I have to save her, Naruto determined, but can I do it? Could I save her while still honoring your memory? If you wanted to honor my memory, Aain stated, you would have forgotten about me and found someone new. I know, but do I have the strength to do it? Naruto asked. You do, Aain assured. People say there are no real heroes in this world. They always talk about how people always have ulterior motives behind their actions. But for you, Naruto, the once blind stranger who threw himself forwards to protect me of all people, from a group of people in an alleyway. You, Naruto, you'll always be the hero in my story. Aain-chan, Naruto cracked up as he embraced the ethereal form of Aain for the final time, as she faded away, this time perhaps for good. Wiping his tears from his eyes, Naruto turned towards the forest before vanishing from sight once again. Kakashi leapt across the forest, attempting to regroup with his team to apprehend the hunter nin. Suddenly, Kakashi felt something tugging at his leg. Looking down, Kakashi came face to face with Naruto, with several wounds adorning his body and with his mask slightly damaged. Being pulled to the ground by the blonde, both Naruto and Kakashi landed on the ground. What's with you? Kakashi asked, a hint of anger in his voice. I thought we had an agreement. I have the scroll, Naruto replied, causing Kakashi to light up immediately. But I have a condition before I give it back. And that is? Kakashi asked. I will be taking the ice user into my custody, Naruto replied. Kakashi muttered, that could be arranged, but do you want the scroll back or not? Naruto snapped, if you don't, I can simply give this back to Orochimaru and kill all three of your genin. Done, Kakashi agreed, receiving the scroll from Naruto before watching as the blonde vanish from sight. Haku currently found herself standing in front of a tree, holding up 6 senbon in each hand as the 3 genin of Team 7 approached her. Haku held up her senbon, fully intent on fighting to the death, even if she had been completely cornered. Nowhere left to run. Sasuke mocked, pulling out a kunai. You probably should surrender. Sakura mocked. Sai stayed silent, merely pulling out a scroll and an ink brush. Before anyone present was able to act, a loud thud could be heard as Sakura fell to the ground, knocked out cold. The 3 shinobi turned their heads towards where Sakura had been standing prior, only to come face to face with Naruto, who had unsheathed Muramasa, its blade glowing with blue luminance, Naruto's calm chakra flowing throughout the blade. You. Sasuke yelled, activating his Sharingan as Naruto leaped in front of Haku. Why did you come back? Haku asked, stepping closer to Naruto. A long time ago I told someone very important to me that I knew what it's like to be beaten up like that, to be ganged up upon and beaten to an inch of your life. It's scarring. I lost my eyes in an alley years ago. I wasn't about to allow anyone to suffer in an unfair circumstance 3 years ago, Naruto began to explain as he sheathed Muramasa before forming several seals. And I'm not about to allow it today. Give me your hand. Blushing slightly as to the blonde's directness, Haku placed her hand into Naruto's gloved hand as the blonde formed a single seal with his free hand. Uzumaki's secret technique, Naruto began to say, nocturnal embrace. Without further warning, the entire forest was covered in a form of complete darkness, obscuring the vision of everyone present. Taking this as his opportunity, Naruto held tightly onto Haku, picking her up bridal style before leaping onto the treetop, before leaping across other treetops, traversing the forest with great speeds. Haku blushed as she buried her face into Naruto's chest. An hour later, still carrying Haku in his arms, Naruto continued to leap across the treetops, doing his best to prevent any possibility of the Konoha shinobi catching up with the two of them. Quickly scanning throughout the entirety of the forest, Naruto leaped onto the ground before gently laying the unconscious Haku on the ground. Checking up on Haku's condition for a bit, Naruto stood up once again, before leaping up into the air, grabbing onto his earlier sustained wound. Kurama Naruto mentally called out, "Are you healing me?" "I am, but it will take some time," Kurama replied. "The wounds you suffered before were bad enough. To begin with, adding on to that would be that mad dash you did. The wounds you have are not easy ones to heal. Just do your best," Naruto thought, slashing at several branches before allowing them to fall to the ground, only to leap down before blocking Haku from the falling branch. "Be careful, Naruto," Kurama advised. "You don't just have to look out for one person now." "Only for tonight," Kurama Naruto replied, placing the 4 branches into the shape of 2 crosses. "I do not intend for this to be a permanent situation, all I promised to do was save her, not live with her permanently." "I see," Kurama replied. "Someone once said the same thing about Aain." "I did," Naruto admitted, placing a sturdy branch on the trenches of the 2 crosses, before beginning to lay several branches diagonally across the branch to form a roof. "But I do not intend to repeat the same mistakes. I am a bringer of misfortune, like it or not. My life is too dangerous for anyone to be a part of it." "Then what will you do with her after tonight?" Kurama asked as Naruto placed leaves over the roof of the makeshift tent. "I'll ask her about where she wants to go to," Naruto began to say, picking Haku up before placing her into the tent, "and I'll take her there or die trying." Naruto knelt before Haku, brushing a stray bit of her long, black hair out of her face, before removing his cloak and covering her with it. Naruto exited the tent before removing the remnants of his mask and placing them against a tree's trunk. Naruto turned towards the mask for a few moments before extending his arm, flailing it forwards before a chain composed purely of chakra emerged from his sleeve, piercing through the broken mask and embedding itself deep within the trunk. What the Naruto thought, sensing his current action. "How did I do that?" "That ability," Kurama thought, remembering the time he had been bound in the same chains. "It's your clan's." "I see," Naruto thought, retracting the chain back into his sleeve before placing a couple of logs into the shape of a fireplace. "In that case, what will I do now?" "That's your choice, didn't you say?" Kurama asked rhetorically, fading into Naruto's subconscious. Naruto sighed, picking up a rock before slashing at it with Muramasa, only for him to cut the top parts of his finger. Frustrated, Naruto sheathed his blade before picking up another rock, smashing it into the first rock, creating many sparks that lit the fireplace before him. Kurama Naruto began to ask, "Could you help me sort this? Getting careless, are we?" Kurama mocked as Naruto's wounds began to seal themselves. "Not the time," Naruto replied. "Look, I've been meaning to apologize to you." "Oh?" Kurama asked, "That's new. Since you're thousands of years old, could I ask you a question?" Naruto requested. "Go ahead," Kurama replied. "Ever since Aain died," Naruto began to say, "I just felt empty. That's the word. Why?" "Look, Naruto," Kurama began to explain, "behind that mask of yours, behind that exterior of yours that acts cold and calculating, lies the soul of someone who longs for connection, the soul of someone who's terrified of being alone." "How can I ever be alone if I have you?" Naruto asked. "Shut up and listen," Kurama ordered. "I know you, Naruto, I inhabit your subconscious. You take on all these dangerous missions, you take all this money that you don't need, you push everyone away who even comes close to offering you another chance at love because it reminds you of how big and empty that hole in your heart is. When and only when you learn to accept someone else into your life can you even attempt to fill that void." "I see," Naruto thought. "Thank you, Kurama." "Anytime," Kurama replied, fading back into Naruto's subconscious. Naruto placed his head onto the ground as raindrops began to fall around him, those same raindrops slowly growing into a heavy downpour. And of course it fucking rains, Naruto thought, trying his best to fall asleep as the flames on the fireplace began to extinguish. The next day, Haku gradually opened her eyes, being met with the sight of leaves above her head as a raindrop fell on her forehead. Picking her upper body up to a 90-degree angle before looking downwards, noticing the presence of Naruto's cloak. "Naruto?" Haku thought, bursting out of the tent as the rain ceased. Looking around, Haku eventually came across Naruto's destroyed mask before walking upon the unconscious Naruto, whose hair and clothes had been thoroughly soaked by the rainwater that had fallen upon him. Walking towards the blonde, Haku placed a hand on Naruto's face. "Hello?" Haku asked, shaking Naruto slightly. "Yes?" Naruto asked back before standing up. "I'm awake." Without saying a further word, Haku trapped Naruto in a tight hug, a tear streaming down her face as she did. Not entirely knowing what to do in this situation, Naruto reluctantly returned the embrace, comforting Haku quite a bit. "Zabuza-sama's gone," Haku murmured. "What do I do now?" "I don't know," Naruto replied. "Maybe let go of me? I need oxygen to breathe." "Fair enough," Haku acknowledged, letting go of Naruto. "As for what you want to do," Naruto began to say, "where do you want to go?" "I don't know," Haku admitted. "I've always just followed Zabuza-sama." "That obviously can't happen anymore, can it?" Naruto asked. "Could I follow you?" Haku requested, surprising Naruto quite a bit. "Please." You're the only real connection, well, friend, that I have left. Naruto contemplated this for a moment, remembering what he had told Kurama yesterday. You do know that what I do it isn't very nice, Naruto began to say, attempting to dissuade the ice user. It's not very safe either. I can handle myself, Haku assured. It should be fine, right? Naruto asked mentally, only to receive no answer from Kurama. Alright, then I'll allow it. Just do not call me by Sama, got it? How about Kun, then? Haku asked. And Naruto began to say, remembering the last person who had ever addressed him by that suffix. No romantic subtext, obviously, Haku assured, causing Naruto to relax significantly. Aain, you can call me that, Naruto confirmed. Thank you, Naruto-kun, Haku muttered, passing Naruto's cloak back to the blonde. And thank you for lending me this. And here I thought you'd be mad that it had holes in it, Naruto joked, placing the cloak over his back. If that's the case, let's go east. The Kiri? Haku asked. Yes, Naruto replied, to Kiri. Something is happening that we both can profit off of. A civil war is hardly something that should be profited from, Haku protested. Maybe not, Naruto replied, beginning to walk away, but this world is hardly fair, to begin with. At night, we should stop for the night, Naruto-kun, Haku requested, to which Naruto relented. Alright then, Naruto replied, we'll set up camp here. Haku nodded before Naruto unsheathed Muramasa. Leaping into the air, Naruto slashed at the few branches he could find, which were few and far between. 10 minutes later, Naruto returned with 4 branches, before forming 2 crosses with them. 20 minutes later, Naruto had successfully formed a tent from several branches and leaves, before Haku returned with several logs of wood. Wait, there's only one tent? Haku asked. For whatever reason, there aren't many trees here, Naruto began to say, so I'll have to make do for now. Wait, what do you mean, you? Haku asked back. Naruto nodded, as he lit the fireplace ablaze. I don't want to make it too awkward between us, it was already awkward enough getting here, so you'll be sleeping in the tent, and I'll be sleeping against a tree somewhere. Then, what if I told you it wasn't awkward? Haku asked once more. I'm sorry, but considering we've only known each other for less than a month, I just can't see us sleeping in such proximity to each other, and I've already made up my mind, Naruto stated, walking off into the distance, as a raindrop sizzled upon contact with the fireplace, and of course it fucking rains. Haku watched on as Naruto walked into a large opening within the forest they were in, facing himself a branchless tree. Without further hesitation, Naruto bowed towards the tree, before 2 chakra chains exited his sleeves. What the Haku thought, observing the blonde. As if he had been provoked, Naruto began to viciously attack the tree, launching the right chain into the tree's trunk, while flailing the second chain against the tree, breaking off a large chunk of the tree, a chunk that would be shattered into pieces before making contact with the ground. Haku got up from her seated position, walking out of the tent into the heavy rain towards Naruto. Is anything the matter? Naruto asked. What are you doing, exactly? Haku asked, before immediately rephrasing her question. That's the wrong question to ask. What's your purpose for doing this? What did the tree do to you? Are you venting? Perhaps, Naruto replied, retracting the chains before unsheathing Muramasa, its blade glowing in all its blue glory. Why do it to a tree? Haku asked as Naruto slashed away at a tree. Wouldn't talking to someone be easier? It would be more practical, Naruto admitted, but this is faster, and it's more effective. Emotions are a fickle thing, a small amount of emotion could help you fight better, it could give you that edge you needed in a fight, but have too much emotion, and it can be taken advantage of, and your emotions being exploited easily lead to fear, fear leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering. I think that's not true, Haku replied, as Naruto hacked off a chunk of the trunk. I believe that it is our connections to others that make us strong. I believe that when people are protecting something or someone who is truly precious to them, only then can they become as strong as they were always meant to be. Can you even understand what I'm saying? Could you even comprehend what the meaning of it all is? Could you even imagine how painful it would be to not have a dream, to not be needed by anyone else, merely living with the pain of being alive? I had dreams, Naruto stated, not turning away from the tree, but those dreams have been crushed long ago. Only those who are truly lost believe in such absolutes, Haku started, causing Naruto to turn around. Lost? Naruto began to say, are you implying that I cannot love anyone? Naruto, please, calm, Haku attempted to say, only to be cut off. Believe me, I have loved before, and look how that turned out. Naruto yelled, what point is there to continue to give in to my emotions and love anything anymore? To feel that same pain again, to suffer like that again, I would rather feel the pain of a million battles and feel the pain of dying 1,000 times over than to feel the pain of that suffering again rather than feel. Naruto began to tear up, falling to his knees as he plunged Muramasa into the ground. I'd rather give up this life bestowed to me, Naruto began to say through his tears, remembering all he had been through up to this point in his life. Rather than lose someone like that again. Look, Naruto, Haku began to say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. It's fine, Haku, Naruto assured, standing back up. For what it's worth, I should be the one apologizing. It's not your fault, Haku assured. Anyways, you shouldn't stay out here too long, you might catch a nasty cold. As Haku walked back into her tent, Naruto turned back towards the tree as he raised Muramasa. It's not your fault, Naruto, Kurama assured. Stop blaming yourself for things you cannot control. There is no point for you to subject yourself to this needless punishment, especially if you did nothing wrong. And she's right, you're standing in the rain. The next morning, with the downpour reduced to a mere drizzle, Haku stumbled out of the tent, pushing Naruto's cloak off of her. That's his cloak, Haku thought. Where is Naruto? Is he? But the fire already long extinguished, Haku walked around the forest, her main goal being the opening Naruto had been in. Before long, she came across the sleeping Naruto, his clothes as well as the cloth tied around his eyes being thoroughly soaked by the rainwater. Walking up to the blonde, Haku knelt, reaching out her hand, intending to untie the cloth around Naruto's eyes. Actually, Haku thought, withdrawing her hand, I shouldn't be doing this, it's private and all. Haku placed a hand on Naruto's face before shaking the blonde, attempting to wake Naruto up. Yes. Naruto croaked up before sitting upright. Anything the matter? It's morning, Haku replied. You didn't get a cold, did you? Probably not, Naruto replied. Hey, I wanted to apologize, I didn't mean to hurt you yesterday, you remember? When we were arguing. It's nothing, Haku assured. It was never your fault to begin with, but thank you for the thought. We should probably get moving, Naruto stated. Haku nodded before retrieving Naruto's cloak from their makeshift campsite. That evening, so I have to ask, Naruto began to say, breaking the long silence between himself and Haku, where are we? Seems like Haku began to say, checking the terrain around her, I have no idea where we are. We'll just have to set up camp here, Naruto determined, before standing up once again. Actually, I sense a civilization. What? Haku asked. Just keep heading east, Naruto replied, that should be where it is. Still unsure regarding the accuracy of Naruto's statement, Haku hesitated for a few seconds before following behind Naruto regardless, realizing that she was currently in the middle of nowhere and that dusk was falling rapidly. To her complete amazement, the two came upon a large village, one which Naruto presumed held many civilians, due to the trend of each inhabitant having low chakra reserves. Well then, seems like I was right, wasn't I? Naruto asked. By some miracle, yes, you were, Haku replied, walking up to the guard that was on duty. Could we speak with the leader of your village? That's not possible at the moment, the guard replied. Celebrations for the Rin festival are underway, and I'm afraid that our great leader is rather occupied at the moment. What do we do now? Haku whispered. Ask if we could join the celebrations, Naruto replied. Are we allowed to join the celebrations? Haku asked. Unorthodox, but the guard began to say, are you two shinobi, by any chance? We are not, Naruto replied. I'm blind, and she's a pacifist, neither of us would make good shinobi. We don't usually allow this, but you two shouldn't cause much trouble here, so the guard began to say, welcome to the land of tea, I hope you enjoy your stay. Haku and Naruto nodded before walking into the bustling village. We don't need to be here for long, Naruto stated, we just need to find the docks. We should probably ask around, Haku replied. Actually, it would help if we blended in first. What? Naruto asked in confusion. Haku sighed before dragging Naruto into a clothing store. Half an hour later. Wow, Haku muttered, a small blush present on her face as she laid eyes on Naruto. I never thought you would look so good in a kimono. I've never worn one before, Naruto replied. I'm sure you look great in yours too. Haku sighed, a blush still on her face. Naruto placed a stack of ryo on the counter before leaving the store with Haku. I wonder, Haku began to think, considering how she was walking next to Naruto, since neither of us has been here before and that we're walking so close together and are dressed completely identically, would anyone see us and think of us as a couple? Haku turned to Naruto, whose blade had vanished. Where did Haku began to say, as Naruto held up a handheld fan. Right here, Naruto replied, hinting that he had transformed Muramasa into a fan. Forgot that you could use chakra, Haku admitted. I can use chakra to save you, Naruto replied. Damn it, way to go, Haku internally berated herself, way to make it awkward again. Land of Tea Aain festival. Now where would you like to go first? Haku asked. I don't know, Naruto replied. Where are the docks? Come on now, Haku began to say, holding on to Naruto's arm. We asked to join the celebrations, we may as well try to enjoy the festival. Aain, we'll stay for a few hours, Naruto relented, sighing as he led the way. Perfect. Haku exclaimed, dragging Naruto to a stall. What is this stall? Naruto asked. The photo booth, actually, Haku replied as she read the instructions written upon the machine. Let's see here, so basically, there will be 2 photos in total, and after we push this button, each photo will be taken every 20 seconds. Interesting, Naruto muttered, before being pulled into the booth by Haku. Quick. Haku exclaimed, we have about 5 seconds until the photo is taken. What? The Naruto began to say, only to hear the noise of a photo being taken. Oh, Haku muttered, disappointment clear in her voice, we messed up the first one. Let's try to get the second one right, alright. Okay, Naruto agreed, facing the direction where he assumed the camera was. 10 seconds. Haku warned. Alright, Naruto replied. 10 seconds passed, and the sound of the camera could be heard as their photo was taken. Did it go well? Naruto asked. Let me check, Haku replied, analyzing the pictures that were produced. Well, that first picture looks kinda funny, but the second one seems alright. You want a copy? No thanks, Naruto started to say, I'll pass on that. Alright, Haku replied, walking out of the photo booth with Naruto. Where Naruto began to say, only to cut himself off and turn around, get back inside. Why? Haku asked, only for Naruto to pull the ice user into the photo booth. There are shinobi here, Naruto replied, they are approaching. Aren't you overreacting? Haku asked, wouldn't the guard just turn away any shinobi? That would be true, Naruto stated, but the guard is dead, and 3 people of Jonin level chakra have entered the village. Did you tell anything else? Haku asked. Naruto focused on the 3 shinobi, attempting to learn everything he could about the 3 shinobi. They're from Konoha, Naruto stated, Raito Namiashi, a famous assassin from Konoha, one that I've run into before, he's beaten me at least twice. Aoba Yamashiro, someone I've never heard of before, so do not get caught off guard by him. Genma Shiranui, I'm pretty sure he used to guard the Hokage. So you're telling me, Haku began to say, only for Naruto to push Haku out of the way of a kunai, one which punctured through the shell of the booth they were both in. We're surrounded. No, Naruto replied, it's Raito. The other 2 are somewhere else. I'll deal with this, you stay here for a bit. Haku nodded, looking onwards as Naruto left the booth. Upon walking out of the booth, the fan in Naruto's hand immediately reverted into Muramasa as the blonde lifted it next to his face, its blue edge successfully blocking a black blade that had threatened to decapitate him. So, Ronin, Raito began to say, jumping backward, what brings you here? I'd ask you the same question, Naruto replied, slipping into a Kenjutsu stance, I'm personally here to take a boat. I'm here on a mission, Raito replied, slipping into his Kenjutsu stance before pointing at the scar present on his face, but I wouldn't mind taking some time out of my mission to pay you back for this nasty mark you gave me. No thanks, Naruto replied. So what are you hiding in there? Raito asked. Immediately noticing the situation he and Haku were currently in, Naruto dashed forwards, slashing at Raito, who managed to barely intercept the attack, clashing against Naruto's blade, grinding metal together and causing sparks to fly across the air. Do you even know what you're getting involved in? Raito began to ask as he began to push further against the blonde. From our previous skirmishes, Konoha now knows about your activities and you have no idea what trouble you're in. Using this opportunity, Raito withdrew one of his hands before pulling out a kunai and plunging it into Naruto's shoulder, causing the blonde to wince in pain. Suddenly, Naruto's arm dropped, causing Raito to push past Muramasa and landing a cut on Naruto's face. What the Naruto thought, attempting to rekindle the strength in his right arm, only to get no response. Poison, I see. What's wrong, Ronin? Raito mocked with a smirk, taken some substances you shouldn't have. Not good, Naruto thought, turning towards the booth. Now then, Raito sneered, let's see what you're hiding. As Raito reached for the curtain of the booth, a chakra chain came flying out of Naruto's wrist, wrapping itself around Raito's arm, halting further movement from that arm. Leave her out of this, Naruto demanded. So it's a her? Raito asked with a smirk, never once would I think that you would get a girlfriend. She's not my girlfriend. Naruto replied, flailing his left arm back, dragging Raito in front of him as his right arm flared back to life. Do not harm her for something I have once done. But the Konoha shinobi mere inches from his face, Naruto flung his right fist forwards, landing a right hook onto Raito's face, knocking him back a significant distance. Raito stood up once again, only to be further kicked in the chin by the blonde, before immediately being struck by a punch square in the face by Naruto, causing his nose to begin bleeding. Based on how a mere possibility of action against her caused such a reaction from you, Raito began to say as he plunged another kunai into Naruto's knee, she means quite a bit to you, doesn't she? Naruto hastily pulled the kunai out of his knee in an attempt to prevent any poison from leaking into his bloodstream, only for this attempt to be in vain, as the blonde immediately fell to his knees. Tragic, isn't it? Raito mocked, kicking Naruto in the face before lifting his black blade over Naruto's neck. Now then, let's see what scar will be left on you. Seconds before Naruto was allowed to be impaled by Raito, Haku intervened, kicking Raito out of the way before checking on the blonde, arming herself with a senbon as she did so. Couldn't keep it together, could you? Haku asked. I'd say I lost to him twice before, Naruto replied, the poison in his knee subsiding as he stumbled to his feet. I'm not about to make this the 3rd time. Whatever, Haku replied, don't know where he is now. He's still here, Naruto confirmed, before blocking a slash with Muramasa. Leave her out of this, Raito. Let's settle this here. Gladly, Raito stated. But the two rivals now facing each other once again in combat, the two dashed towards each other, with Naruto immediately ducking under a slash before striking at the Raito's right hamstrings with the bottom of Muramasa's handle as Haku watched from the photo booth. Undeterred by this, Raito rose before slashing downwards at the blonde, only for Naruto to dodge and slash back, inflicting a small cut onto the shinobi's arm. "I see you've learned some new tricks," Raito acknowledged. "Those aren't the only tricks," Naruto replied. Raito held up his black blade, slashing at Naruto, who held up Muramasa to intercept the blow, only for Raito to pull his swing further downwards before slashing at the blonde at a diagonal angle, forcing Naruto to switch to a reverse grip before narrowly intercepting the attack. A reverse grip, Raito thought, he can't reinforce that easily. Noting his advantageous position, Raito held up a kunai before plunging it downwards at Naruto, only for the blonde to intercept the attack, holding on to Raito's wrist as sparks flew across the air as the edges of their blades ground against the others. "It's a shame you aren't from Konoha," Raito began to say as Naruto began to struggle in their blade clash. "Your strength would suit you well there, and I know a certain someone who would want to fight you." But the mentioning of Konoha, Naruto's rage spiked, giving him the strength to push back against Raito's slash, causing more sparks to fly across the air as Muramasa's edge glowed with a blazing red luminance. What the Raito thought as Naruto twisted the shinobi's wrist, forcing him to drop the kunai. "How is he?" Without allowing Raito to finish his musing, Naruto let go of the shinobi's wrist before taking a step back, balancing his weight on his left leg before flinging his clenched right fist out aimed at Raito's temple, catching the shinobi square in the nose, breaking up their clash and sending Raito flying back, causing the shinobi to drop the black blade in his hand. "It's over," Naruto declared, sheathing Muramasa before turning to Raito. "What does Konoha want with this village?" "Why would I tell you?" Raito asked, pulling out a kunai with an explosive tag behind his back. "Fine then," Naruto replied, "I'll get that information from your teammates." "Patch," Raito announced, standing up immediately before throwing the kunai with the explosive tag on it at Haku before promptly leaping away. But the blonde not having much time to react, Naruto flicked his right arm forwards, a chakra chain exiting his sleeve, wrapping around the kunai's ring as the explosive tag began to combust into flames. Haku watched as Naruto flicked his hand back, pulling the kunai and the explosive tag towards himself before the explosive tag promptly exploded near the blonde. "Naruto!" Haku yelled, worry clear in her voice as she ran to Naruto's side. Slowly, Naruto sat upright, several burn marks and bruises making themselves known to Haku as his discarded Haori laid on the ground next to him, itself in tatters and set ablaze by the explosion. "You okay?" Haku asked, to which Naruto responded by nodding. "We should head for the docks," Naruto replied, forcing himself to stand up. "Actually, we should kick Konoha out of this village first." "Why?" Haku asked. "This village cannot defend themselves," Naruto explained. "If we don't help them, they will be forced to submit to Konoha's will." Grand Council of the Land of Ta. Half an hour later, Genma slammed a paper on the council table as Aoba watched from behind. "You or do you not accept this?" Genma began to say. "Exclusive trade partnership treaty from Konoha." "So, Konoha is essentially demanding our submission?" a councillor asked. "The last breaths of a dying empire," another muttered. "We know of your village's situation and you demand we renounce our independence to become an economic tributary?" a third councillor asked. "Please try to understand," Genma began to say. "The subjugation of your village is the least of Konoha's desires. All we intend for is for our villages to prosper together, a co-prosperity sphere, a brotherly union. Do not take us as uneducated fools," the first councillor began to say. "We know of your village's precarious situation. Your Jinchuriki has deserted, Suna has broken the alliance between your villages, and the lands of waves, grass, and waterfall have severed all economic ties with Konoha, and now you demand our subjugation through a disguised ultimatum." Before Genma was able to provide a suitable counter-argument, Raito burst into the room, several cuts and bruises present on his face and arms. "How did you?" Aoba began to say. "We've got a problem," Raito announced. "I thought this village didn't have a shinobi force?" Genma asked. "Maybe not," Raito began to say, only to be cut off by an unexpected voice. "But a certain blind ronin would like to ensure you three fuck off," came the voice of Naruto, who was hanging upside down on the ceiling. "You do realize you're outnumbered 3-1, right?" Genma asked. "Well, you've got me there," Naruto began to say, "but one of you is injured." "So are you," Raito replied. "Who determined that?" Naruto asked as the councillors began to pile out of the room. "Where are you guys going?" Aoba asked, extending his hand towards one of the councillors, only for a chakra chain to wrap around the Takubetsu Jonin's wrist. "They're leaving, so let them leave," Naruto stated, landing on the council table as he withdrew Muramasa. "Aren't we gonna have the most wonderful?" Before he was allowed to finish, Naruto raised his blade, deflecting 3 senbon that Genma had sent flying his way. Discussion, Naruto finished with a grin before kicking up the table, just in time to block a fireball that Aoba had launched from his mouth, forcing Naruto to retract the chakra chain. You have no idea how much of a reputation you have built, Ronin, Aoba brought up. Do I have a bounty in Konoha? Naruto deadpanned. No, Aoba replied. Then it's not much of a reputation then, is it? Naruto asked back. Before the conversation was allowed to continue, the table was split in half down the middle, before a flock of crows came flying towards Naruto, with Raito in the center, slashing at the blonde. Sensing the slash, Naruto ducked under it, only to be launched out of the window by a dropkick from Genma, sending him flying out of the council room and into the streets below. Is it over? Aoba asked, dispelling the crows. Sadly, it's not, Naruto stated, hanging onto Muramasa's handle, whose blade was embedded into the wall. Face it, I won today. You're the one running away. Raito protested. True, but only one of us achieved our goals here tonight, Naruto stated. You guys can't follow up on your mission anymore. Without the agreement of the counselors here, you three can't risk taking control of the trade here without it sparking into an international crisis, and my goal here was only to get to Kiri, so tell me, who won? Damn it, he's right, Genma admitted. You're pretty good, kid. Really? Naruto asked, do you mean that? For what it's worth, I do mean that, Genma replied, but you're not leaving this place. About that, Naruto began to say, I have different plans. Not knowing what the blonde meant by that statement, the three Takubetsu Jonin watched on as Naruto pulled Muramasa from the wall, before free-falling towards the ground. Seconds before he would hit the ground, however, a crystalline mirror emerged as Naruto fell in and immediately closed after. VORT 10 seconds ago, Haku stood in front of a ferry, one with its course bound for Kiri, with one of Naruto's clones standing next to her. And he's falling, the clone began to say, now. Haku nodded, before forming a unique seal, causing a crystalline mirror to emerge next to her. Seconds later, Naruto came out of the mirror, landing on his feet. Did it work? Haku asked as the clone of Naruto next to her dispelled. It did, Naruto replied, before pointing towards the large chunk of glass embedded into his arm. At what cost? We'll patch you up later, Haku replied, pulling Naruto towards the ferry. Get on the ship. Naruto nodded, leaping onto the ship with Haku. In the FERRY Naruto and Haku's room, half an hour later, Naruto sat on his bed as Haku sat in front of him, slowly pulling the glass shard from Naruto's arm, with Naruto doing his best to hide the pain the process had caused him. You know, Haku began to say, it is just the two of us here, why are you hiding your pain? No. Naruto argued, I'm not hiding my pain. I can see you gritting your teeth, wincing, Haku deadpanned, before placing a hand on Naruto's face. Now, this one might hurt a little bit. On 3, Naruto muttered. 3, Haku replied, skipping the first 2 numbers as she pulled the large shard of glass from Naruto's arm, placing her palm over Naruto's mouth. There. Thank you, Naruto replied, as the ice user flung the piece of glass out of the window and into the open seas, blood dripping from Naruto's wound. Are you gonna patch that up? Haku asked, standing up and turning towards her bed. Nah, it's fine, Naruto replied, as the wound began to patch itself up. That's a neat trick you've got there, Haku replied, lying on her bed. You should get some rest too, you've got a big day tomorrow. Fair enough, Naruto replied, there are no trees here for me to slash at. Haku chuckled, finding humor in one of Naruto's rare jokes. Naruto and Haku's ROOM dawn. Haku awoke from her sound sleep, the impact her head made with the wall of the room, caused by the crashing waves below, certainly contributing to this awakening. Slowly shifting to an upright position, Haku was immediately made aware of the disappearance of Naruto from his bed, prompting her to shake her head. He should be on the deck, Haku thought, getting off of her bed before leaving the room. That's where I would be, anyways. Upon reaching the deck, Haku's theory was proven true as she was met with the sight of Naruto, standing at the edge of the ship's fence. The blonde faced the outside of the fence, facing the rising sun above and the roaring waves below, with the azure sky and the slowly rising sun being reflected in the sea below, before the reflection was dispersed by the introduction of several furious crashing waves. Naruto stood perfectly still, his tattered kimono flowing in the distance, as the cloth usually tied around his eyes was gripped firmly in his hand. What is he doing? Haku asked herself, taking a few steps forwards. Now aware of her presence, Naruto contemplated for a few seconds before hastily wrapping the cloth around his eyes, obscuring the burn mark around his left eye and the deep scar running over his right from the view of anyone. Naruto turned around, facing Haku's direction. Good morning, Haku brought up. Perhaps, Naruto replied, the business we'll be involved in later, however there's nothing much good about that. Are you okay? Haku asked, you seem rather somber this morning. I'm holding up fine, Naruto replied as he stepped into Haku's view, revealing that all wounds he had suffered yesterday were healed. We have about. Before Naruto was allowed to finish, the blonde was alerted to a large chakra present in Kiri, just as Kurama would be alerted to it seconds later. Kurama, do you feel that? Naruto mentally asked. Naruto? Haku asked. I feel that all right, Kurama growled. Asobu. Who? Naruto asked. The three-tailed beast, Kurama revealed. I am not glad to sense him here again. I wouldn't be, Naruto replied. Considering he's housed in the Mizukage, I'd assume he's fighting in the loyalist faction. Be careful, Naruto, Kurama warned. I have no doubt he sensed your presence by now. AIRI loyalist camp. Yagura, a man of small stature with a head of messy light gray hair, stood at the discussion table, surrounded by several scouts, generals, and Anbu members, among them regular Anbu and several hunter nin respectively. So, from our received intel, Yagura began to say, only to cut himself off and look into the distance. Mizukage-sama? A scout asked. That will be it for today, Yagura declared. I have some business to attend to. The men at the table bowed before Yagura, before collectively leaving his tent, leaving the Mizukage to his musing. A Jinchuriki, eh? Yagura thought as he furthered his sensing of who this person was before his eyes widened. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki. I see Aain has returned, be it with me or against me, no mere boy could stand against a god, Yagura thought, remembering the time he had once hired Naruto. Although he might prove to be a problem, should he wield the power of the Kyuubi. Naruto and Haku 30 minutes later, having docked at Kiri's western harbor, home of Kiri's opposition. Sensing the presence of many shinobi in the area, Naruto and Haku walked into a camp belonging to the faction, sensing several pairs of eyes watching their every move, many of them having their hands on different weapons. What happened to this place, Naruto asked, sniffing the air as a thick mist filled the air. It reeks of blood. Perhaps I can provide some sort of explanation, came the voice of a young woman, one gentle in tone yet resolute in wording. My name is Mei Terumi, and I can only assume you two are here to assist the resistance. Yes, Naruto replied, assuming there is a paid mission to take up. There are many, Mei replied, but first, we need to take your name, rank, and village association. You can start. Me? Naruto asked. Yes, is there a problem? Mei asked back. No, my apologies, my blindness makes it so that I can't tell who you're looking at, Naruto replied. My name is Naruto, and I'm a ronin who has been in almost every part of the world, including Kiri. Yes, I am blind, but I am also a sensor. I see, Mei began to say. What expertise could you bring to the table? Well, besides Kenjutsu and sensory ability, Naruto began to say. Before the civil war, Yagura had once hired me. All activity around the three froze on the spot, all shinobi in the area now turning towards Naruto. You're not joking, are you? Mei asked. Do I seem like someone who jokes? Naruto asked back. In that case, I have just the mission for you, Mei began to say, before turning to Haku. How about you? My name is Hakuyuki, and a few years ago, my entire family was murdered here, Haku began to say. A swordsman who once attempted a coup here took me in before he met his doom about a week ago. Oh my, Mei began to say, was it part of the purges? Sadly, no, Haku revealed. My father attempted to kill me, and in my defense, I awakened my bloodline. I see, Mei replied. What kind of mission would you like? I have a request, Haku stated. Oh no, Naruto thought, already predicting the nature of Haku's request. And that is? Mei asked. I would like to go on the same mission as Naruto, Haku replied, to Naruto's dismay. Granted, Mei stated, come with me, we'll discuss this mission in my tent. 1 second, Naruto spoke up, I would like a moment in private with Haku. Mei nodded as Naruto walked into a private corner with Haku. Do not go on this mission, Naruto requested. What? Haku asked in disbelief. Why? It's too dangerous, Naruto replied. That's it? Haku asked back. It's dangerous. You are going on the same mission, you know. That's more of a reason for you to not go, Naruto replied. I make every mission dangerous. It'll be fine, trust me, Haku assured, turning to leave, only for 2 chakra chains to wrap around her right arm. Please don't go, not on this one, Naruto pleaded. Why? You scared? Haku asked. I'm not, Naruto brushed off. You probably are, considering how you're acting, Haku stated. Fine. Naruto yelled, I am scared. I always am. Especially after knowing you, I can't have someone close to me die again, not like this. Oh my, Haku murmured, the chains around her right arm loosening. I never knew you thought of me that way. I do not, Naruto stated. Why lie to her? Kurama asked. Shut up, Kurama. Naruto mentally yelled as Haku reached out her hand, only for Naruto to dodge out of the way. I'm sorry, but anyone who loves me, or even forms that sort of relationship with me is bound to die. I do not wish to go through that again. It'll be fine, Haku assured. Come on, Mei-sen is waiting for us. Aain, Naruto relented, just promise me, you won't do anything brash. You're the one who always pulls that sort of stunt, Haku replied. Naruto sighed, before walking into Mei's tent with Haku. Inside the tent, many different maps with different division markers on them were littered across the many different tables, while Mei stood at the largest table. Glad you two could make it, Mei spoke up. Come over here for a moment, Haku, I'm sure I can trust you to interpret. That's fine, I have an understanding of where things are in Kiri, Naruto assured, just state the location and state the description of our duty. Alright, Mei replied, truthfully, the resistance does hold a significant advantage over the loyalist faction. We have their camp encircled and have almost double the number of shinobi, but shinobi of both sides are running low on morale, and if we do not end this civil war quickly, it could spark a conquest or incursion from a foreign nation, considering how both Konoha and Kumo are poised to strike. That's but based on how you have yet to deal the final blow, Naruto began to say, obstacles are halting your armies, isn't there? Indeed, Mei replied, the first and main issue is Yagura's presence, not a single one of our shinobi can stand up to a perfect Jinchuriki, let alone one that holds no value for any sort of human life. The second is an incredibly potent series of fortifications surrounding their base. However, this can be overcome. And I'm assuming this is where I come in. Naruto replied. You mean we, Haku whispered. Precisely, Mei replied, in an hour, you two will be joined by Timao before your combined forces will attempt to storm the fort before our armies march into the loyalist camp. That's good and all, but first Naruto began to say, tell me, how did this civil war begin? Why is that important, if I may ask? Mei asked. I'd like to know as much as possible about what I'm fighting against, Naruto replied. To cut a long story short, Mei began to say, Yagura had been elected during a time of incredible instability and had done a great deal to reform the village. This all changed one day when Yagura announced a purge. He started with the council, publicly executing every member of it before moving on to highly ranked shinobi and bloodline users. Being both a decorated general and a bloodline user, I launched a putsch of sorts and my supporters clashed with loyalists in the village square. Weeks later, the water daimyo declared neutrality to our situation and a needless spilling of blood thus began. I see, Naruto replied, something isn't right, no one person has a sudden change of heart that easily. Naruto turned to Mei, so, you're saying that Yagura went from a great reformist to the greatest tyrant the shinobi world has ever seen within a day? Yes, Mei replied. It must be it, Naruto thought, he must be controlled by someone more than likely, and Uchiha, but who, specifically? Naruto turned to Mei, before bowing slightly. I believe we should head to the strike point, Naruto stated, we'll report to you when we return. Should you return, Mei corrected. On the way to the strike point, you sure you want to go on this mission? Naruto asked. You know, for someone who claims they'll never be able to love again, Haku began to say, you sure would be a good partner to have. Maybe, maybe not, Naruto stated. Believe me, Haku replied, I'll be fine. Actually, I have a question. Naruto asked. Do you want to go on a date after this mission is done? Haku asked, surprising Naruto. I don't think I can, Naruto replied, you already know why that is. Alright, Haku muttered, clearly disappointed. I won't stop asking. He may not see it, but he desperately needs to move on before anything bad happens or before he loses himself. 30 minutes later, Ao paced up and down the field. He was currently awaiting the arrival of 2 volunteers who were to join in his team's assault of the fortress. It went without saying that Ao had felt rather skeptical when he first received the news, but upon hearing of the presence of the famous ronin who prowled the lands, victory had become all but guaranteed in Ao's mind. Where are they? Ao thought as he looked into the distance, noticing 2 figures in the mist. Perfect. Are you Ao? Ao the all-seeing? Naruto asked. That I am, you must be the ronin, Ao replied, it's an honor to meet you. You hold quite the reputation yourself, Naruto replied, but let's not delve into a full-on conversation here, Commander. We have some gruesome business to attend to, don't we? Indeed we do, and thank you for your help, Ao began to say, before turning towards Haku, thank you as well, miss. Just Haku will do, Haku replied. Regardless, we must prepare ourselves, Ao stated, you two are aware of the plan, right? Codename? Naruto asked. Operation Downfall, Ao revealed, to win the war one has to cut off the head of the snake. 5 minutes later, on my signal, Ao ordered, holding a hand up before giving a countdown. 3 Haku thought, holding up 2 senbon in each hand. 2 Ao spoke up, holding a kunai. 1 Naruto mentally counted, preparing to leap into battle. Upon hearing Ao's order, Naruto leaped out onto the open field, gaining the attention of several loyalist shinobi. Without further hesitation, Naruto rushed towards a small concentration of shinobi, dodging several slashes and kunai coming his way, before leaping over a shinobi and extending 2 chakra chains from his sleeves. Landing on his feet, Naruto flung his arms forward, plunging the sharp tips of his chains into a shinobi, before ducking under a slash from behind. What the loyalist shinobi muttered, only to be quickly silenced by a bone-crushing punch from Naruto. Suddenly, a hunter nin made himself known to Naruto, leaping upwards before slashing at Naruto, only to be incapacitated mid-air. 2 senbon plunged into his neck. Before Naruto was able to thank the ice user, he found himself immediately occupied again, intercepting a kunai from another loyalist shinobi. This is becoming unsustainable, Naruto thought as he flung his free arm towards Haku's direction, the chain plunging itself into and incapacitating a shinobi behind her. I'm just gonna head for the tower. With a clear goal now set in his mind, Naruto dashed towards the direction of the fortress, as several loyalist shinobi dashed towards him in response. Not being able to spare much time to slow down, Naruto brushed past several slashes and kunai, enduring several small cuts and wounds. Well, that just worked, Naruto thought, running towards the fortress only to sense the presence of several more shinobi running towards him. Spoke too soon, didn't I? Before the shinobi were able to launch their attacks towards Naruto, the blonde pulled out several kunai explosive tags tied to their ends, before flinging the projectiles towards the group of shinobi, causing a large explosion to erupt, allowing Naruto a free route into the fortress. Inside the fortress, sensing the presence of many shinobi scattered throughout the building, Naruto placed a new Oni mask over his face, before unsheathing Muramasa, its blade illuminated with a soft blue glow. Naruto moved swiftly, blade in hand, as he began his infiltration of the fortress. As if he were a force of nature, Naruto slashed at the many guards and shinobi in the building, causing several unsettling screams along the way. I'd better move quickly, Naruto thought, it's only a matter of time until they reinforce this fortress, although the shinobi all seem to be conscripts. Brushing off these thoughts, Naruto climbed the ladder to the next floor, only for a clenched fist to connect with his face. But the Naruto thought, rubbing his cheek, where there was no one there, was there. Ignoring this for the moment, Naruto rushed towards the shinobi in the room, slashing away at the men, staining his once brightly colored kimono with their crimson red blood. A few slashes later, Naruto turned towards the last shinobi standing in the room, a boy no older than 13, one who shook in his spot upon laying eyes on the blonde, the latter wiping the blood from his face. Without sparing a further look, the shinobi turned around to flee, only for a chakra chain to wrap around his left ankle, before dragging him towards Naruto. No. Please, the shinobi pleaded, mercy. Naruto withdrew his chain, before turning around, sensing a mirror image of his past in the shinobi's unfortunate situation. Run, Naruto stated, go to the resistance, and tell them Naruto sent you. The boy nodded, before running away, only for another shinobi to grab onto his wrist. Naruto turned around, sensing the presence of many other shinobi, all of whom had arrived from the upper floor. Fool, a shinobi started to say, do you not know how we deal with deserters? No. Naruto yelled, only for the shinobi to push the boy out of the window, left to plummet to his death. As for you, Ronin, the shinobi began to say, you have come far further than you should have, and we'll have to put you down, right the place you stand. Naruto said nothing, forming several seals before forming a final seal, as Muramasa's blade flared to a blazing red glow. Uzumaki's secret technique, Naruto mentally said, his rage clouding his judgment, nocturnal embrace. The form of total darkness shrouded the floor of the fortress as Naruto's grip over Muramasa tightened. Without further warning, Naruto dashed towards the dazed shinobi, slashing at all shinobi present, tearing through the blinded men one by one, before arriving at the shinobi who had pushed the boy out of the window, just as Naruto's technique faded away, allowing the utter carnage around Naruto to become apparent to all. Before the shinobi was able to react, Naruto crushed the man's wrist, before holding him over the ground below. Not sparing the man any further mercy than that the shinobi had granted the boy, Naruto dropped the man, leaving the shinobi to plummet to his fate below. Finally, Naruto thought, no longer sensing the presence of any shinobi in the fortress as he climbed to the top floor. You know, a sinister voice rang through the air, I could have sworn the Kyuubi Jinchuriki had perished 3 years ago. What? Who are you? Naruto demanded to know. Me? The voice asked, appearing as a masked figure standing before Naruto, my name is Madara Uchiha. Impossible. Naruto replied, dashing towards the figure. You're dead. Naruto threw a punch, only for his attack to seemingly phase through Madara. Look at yourself, Madara began to say as all of Naruto's attacks phased through the ghost of the Uchiha. You claim to be a mere Ronin. Do you still claim that you Jinchuriki are not monsters? Take a look around you, take a good hard look. Look at the lives you've ended here today, look at what you've done. Before Naruto was able to respond, Madara faded from the building, leaving Naruto to ponder what Madara had just said. Before long, Haku and Aain came up to the floor Naruto was standing on. Good job, Ronin, Aain acknowledged. Naruto nodded softly, before leaving the building, followed shortly by Haku. Naruto and Haku open field. I'm a monster, Naruto said to himself, dropping Muramasa onto the ground. You're not a monster, Haku replied, walking towards the blonde, you did what you had to. I murdered them all, Naruto muttered, what I've done to them none of them deserved it, they were merely fighting in a war they didn't want to fight in. Naruto, Haku began to say, you're not a monster. Naruto fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face as Haku ran to his side. I've betrayed the ideals that were once instilled within me, Naruto murmured, I've betrayed the ideals of the one I've once loved, and I've betrayed the foundations on which I've based my beliefs. You always wanted to know why I tie this cloth around my eyes, didn't you? I do, but what does that have to do with this conversation? Haku asked. Naruto said nothing, unraveling the cloth around his eyes before allowing it to fly away in the wind. Without further hesitation, Naruto turned to Haku, who was allowed to lay eyes on Naruto's for the first time, now knowing firsthand why Naruto had never shown her what was underneath the cloth. Naruto began to say, even now, I still have the same poor interpretive abilities. I always say how I'll never love again, but these wounds alone, these scars, these relics of a past I've long since put behind me, they are the sole guarantors that no female would ever want to merely entertain the idea of kissing me, let alone forming any sort of relationship with me. I would kiss you, Haku muttered. It's too late for excuse me. Naruto began to say, only to cut himself off. If it would help you get through your problems, Haku began to say, I have no problem with kissing you, your scars do not define you, your character does. You are not a heartless monster, nor are you a cursed individual, but a person who does his best in tough circumstances. Hell, you even did your best to help me out of a tight spot. I'm sorry, but I'm too far gone for that, Naruto replied, picking up Muramasa. It's never too late, Haku assured. Before Naruto was able to reply, the blonde lifted his head before turning towards Haku, pushing her out of the way before unsheathing Muramasa, intercepting an attack from Yagura, one dealt by the sharp crescent-like curve of his staff. Finally Yagura began to say with a maniacal grin on his face, you've turned up, Ronin. Open field. I'm sorry, but I'm too far gone for that, Naruto replied, picking up Muramasa. It's never too late, Haku assured. Before Naruto was able to reply, the blonde lifted his head before turning towards Haku, pushing her out of the way before unsheathing Muramasa, intercepting an attack from Yagura, one dealt by the sharp crescent-like curve of his staff. Finally Yagura began to say, a maniacal grin plastered upon his face, you've turned up, Ronin. You have no idea just how long I've waited. Haku looked up from the ground, placing her eyes on the clash between Naruto and Yagura's respective weapons, many sparks flying uncontrollably through the air. Noticing the lack of headway made against his opponent, Yagura placed both of his hands on his battle staff, forcing Muramasa to come inches from Naruto's face, with the crescent-shaped blade of Yagura's weapon, scratching the surface of the skin of Naruto's neck, a small wound being inflicted as a result. What's wrong, Ronin, or should I say Kyuubi Jinchuriki? Yagura mocked, before cackling madly, can't stop me, can you? I need to do something soon, Naruto thought, I've got it. An idea now in his mind, Naruto grabbed onto the staff center before beginning to push back against the tyrant. Taking this push back as her cue to assist Naruto, Haku readied 3 senbon before launching all 3 at Yagura, one of the needles plunging itself into the Jinchuriki's neck. Now mere inches away from Yagura, Naruto flung his head forwards, landing a headbutt onto the 4th Mizukage's head, forcing him back. Last chance, Yagura stated, join me or face the wrath of a god. What is a god to a non-believer? Naruto asked in response, cracking his knuckles and loosening his joints. Aain, Yagura began to say, pulling the senbon from his neck. You want to play? Let's play. Naruto prepared himself, slipping into his Kenjutsu stance, Muramasa's blade now glowing with an azure blue luminance. Without further warning, Yagura dashed towards Naruto, leaping into the air, spinning his staff before slashing downwards with its hooked blade. Milliseconds away from contact with the blade, Naruto flicked his head to the left, avoiding an attack onto his head at the cost of suffering a cut on his arm. Enough dodging, Naruto thought, time to bring this back. Ducking under another attack from Yagura, Naruto retaliated, slashing back at Yagura, only for his slash to be intercepted by the tyrant. Undeterred by this, Naruto pushed forwards, launching several quick slashes against Yagura, only for his attacks to either be intercepted or avoided entirely. What's the problem? Yagura sneered, can't hit me. Ducking under another slash, Yagura spun his staff before slamming the blunt edge of the staff's lower hook into Naruto's torso, launching him back a significant distance. Knowing full well that he couldn't afford to be knocked off balance, Naruto plunged Muramasa into the ground, halting his movement backward entirely, taking a knee to create more friction between himself and the ground. Giving up so soon? Yagura taunted, dashing towards Naruto, I'm just getting started. Not quite, Naruto replied, taking his hand off Muramasa's handle before flinging them forward, wrapping Yagura with 2 separate chakra chains from each hand. As you said, we're just getting started. Locking Yagura dead in place, Naruto lifted his arm before Haku sped through several hand seals, causing the mist in the air to begin condensing into many droplets of water, before the droplets of water began to freeze and solidify, before gathering in Haku's open palm. Let's try this technique, Haku thought, as the concentration of ice in her open palm blackened in color. Ice release. Black Dragon Blizzard. Thrusting her open palm forward, an ether-like black dragon bearing red eyes and teeth materialized from the concentration of ice before launching itself towards the constricted Yagura. Before the dragon was able to make contact with the Jinchuriki, Yagura broke out of Naruto's chains before leaping into the air. Too slow. Yagura mocked. Is it now? Haku asked. Haku lifted her right arm into the air as if coordinating the dragon's movements. Suddenly, the ice dragon's accelerated in speed before shifting its direction upwards, crashing into Yagura with great force, causing the Jinchuriki to land back onto the ground with a great crash. Taking this as a brief moment of respite, Haku rushed towards Naruto, intending to check up on the blonde. "You alright?" Haku asked. "I'm fine," Naruto replied, "don't know how long that's going to last, though." As if agreeing with Naruto's statement, a large shockwave was experienced in the area as Yagura vanished from his last seen location before reappearing in front of the two, sending a punch that launched Naruto a great distance back. Yagura stood over his downed opponent, a translucent red shroud of bubbles, much akin to those of boiling liquid encapsulating the Jinchuriki. "Naruto!" Haku yelled, yet remaining still, her mind running as fast as it could to come up with a solution. "As fun as this has been, and as strong as you may be," Yagura began to say, "no mere boy stands against a god, and unless you choose to no longer restrain yourself against me, that shall remain a fact." Yagura lifted his clenched right fist before repeatedly pounding away at Naruto's face, causing Naruto to cough up blood upon first contact. Seeing his opponent now as vulnerable, Yagura lifted his staff before slashing downward with the staff's larger hook, only for Naruto to vanish from sight as Yagura's maniacal grin widened even more. "I was wondering when you would use it." Yagura cackled, turning towards Naruto, the blonde now encapsulated with the same shroud that encapsulated Yagura. "Now then, let's see what you're made of." Naruto said nothing, the glow of Muramasa's cutting edge shifting from its prior azure blue to a blazing red luminance. Without further exchanges of dialogue, the two Jinchuriki dashed towards each other, their movements appearing as blurs to the inexperienced eyes of most shinobi. With the fury of the Kyuubi behind him, Naruto slashed at the tyrant, landing his first successful attack as he inflicted a small cut onto Yagura's shoulder. "Passed, that's for sure," Yagura thought, ducking under and dodging several swift attacks from Naruto in rapid succession. "Time to take this up a notch." Rapidly spinning his staff once again, Yagura formed a circular pool of water in front of Naruto, one which perfectly reflected the blonde's movements. Disregarding this, Naruto slashed forward, only for his slash to be intercepted by a perfect copy of himself. What the Naruto began to say, only to get punched in the face by the clone of himself generated by the mirror. Their display was impressive and possessed the strength and ferocity of a Jinchuriki. Yagura murmured, placing the tip of his staff against Naruto's exposed neck, "But I'm afraid this charade has come to an end, for you and the girl." Yagura looked up, only to notice the sudden absence of Haku. Taking his opponent's moment of bewilderment as his opportunity, Naruto placed his hands on the ground of which he lay, using his arms as a springboard, launching himself upwards and kicking Yagura in the jaw, knocking him back and forcing him to drop his staff. The clear advantage now obtained, Naruto restarted his unrelenting assault upon his enemy, dispersing the clone of himself with relative ease before dashing towards Yagura, slashing at the tyrant and inflicting a massive gash across the Jinchuriki's torso, causing blood to spill and Yagura to fall to the ground. "He won't be down for long," Naruto thought, "I'd best re-coordinate my plan." "Naruto?" came Haku's voice as the ice user pulled Naruto through a mirror to a different location from the one he was standing in prior. "You ready?" Naruto asked. "Always," Haku replied, prompting Naruto to leap into the mirror in front of him. Picking his staff up from the ground of which it had laid upon moments prior, Yagura was quickly interrupted upon the introduction of an ice mirror behind him before an impact was made to the back of his head by Naruto's foot before Naruto disappeared into another mirror, seconds before Yagura would come to be surrounded by many crystalline mirrors. Before he had been able to react, Naruto reappeared out of another mirror, slashing Yagura in the back before disappearing into another mirror. Too fast, Yagura corrected his former statement. The situation quickly made itself clear to Yagura. The upper hand he had held at the start of their skirmish was no longer present and Naruto had escalated the conflict to a dangerous extent. As Naruto inflicted another cut onto the Jinchuriki, a clear conclusion was made in Yagura's head. He simply was unable to continue the battle as it was now. It did not matter if he could theoretically match every single one of Naruto's attacks, should he not be able to react to them in time. Yagura now knew what was needed of him to not lose this duel. He needed to escalate further. "Something's wrong," Naruto thought in between one of his attacks, sensing a massive spike in chakra. What Naruto had been doing amounted to nothing more than mere guerrilla attacks, which clashed with his samurai training and his honor, but in this duel, the blonde allowed that to slide for the moment being. Exiting the mirror to slash at Yagura once again, Naruto was given a rude awakening upon the connection of his face with Yagura's fist, launching him onto one of the mirrors, shattering it into many pieces. Yagura stood over his opponent, himself now encapsulated by a dark red layer of concentrated chakra, with something akin to an exoskeleton forming around the Jinchuriki. Knowing he now stood no chance against the tyrant, Naruto attempted to leap into a mirror, only for Yagura to catch him by the ankle, before launching him into another mirror, yet again shattering it into thousands of tiny shards. You should be honored to be in the presence of such a divine form of mine, Yagura all but growled, before launching himself at Naruto yet again. Yagura lunged at the blonde, only for Naruto to barely roll to the left, narrowly dodging the attack. Attempting to make the most of his disastrous position, Naruto unleashed many chakra chains from his sleeves, wrapping them around Yagura in an attempt to constrict the tyrant, only for Yagura to burst out of the chains and land a brutal punch square onto Naruto's face, shattering the blonde's nose. Naruto frowned. He had severely overestimated his chances of survival, let alone victory. Haku shot up from her sitting position, sensing that all her mirrors had been shattered. Now knowing that Naruto was in trouble, Haku rushed towards the site of Naruto and Yagura's battle. Upon her sudden arrival, Haku's worst fears about the situation were proven true as a heavily wounded Naruto landed in front of her. "Naruto!" Haku yelled, kneeling to check on the blonde. Naruto croaked up, coughing up blood as he did, "Run." Before the ice user was able to respond to the blonde, Yagura leaped in front of the two, grabbing Naruto before launching him into the side of a mountain, shattering the structure under the impact of the crash. Now Yagura began to say, turning towards Haku. "It's your turn." "No one has to die here today," Haku replied. "Tough, it's a war," Yagura sneered, "and you two shall be the latest victims of it." Before Yagura was able to follow up on his threat, two chakra chains flew past the tyrant, who took a step back seconds before they were visible. "You never learn, do you?" Yagura mocked, grabbing onto the chains before yanking at them, causing Naruto to come flying towards Yagura. "I'll teach you to respect my heavenly presence. A mere child shall not desecrate my legacy." But the blonde now at his mercy, Yagura began his merciless assault against Naruto, pummeling him rapidly before raising his staff. Still hanging on, Naruto unsheathed Muramasa and began to parry the tyrant's attacks, causing many bursts of sparks to light up the dark environment. Suddenly, Naruto failed to parry one of Yagura's blows, only for the tyrant to disarm him, before restarting his furious assault, mercilessly beating on the blonde with his hooked staff. Naruto began to say in between hits, blood being drawn from every wound in his body. "Run please. You should worry more about yourself, boy," Yagura sneered, throwing Naruto aside before turning to face the blonde. Yagura began to spin his staff as water chakra accumulated at the larger hook of his staff. "And now you shall receive my judgment." Yagura yelled, launching a heavily pressurized bolt of water towards the blonde. Naruto tried to rise to his feet, the blonde attempted with all his might to place his hands on the ground, only for these efforts to be in vain, forcing him to fall flat on his face, accepting his fate. Suddenly, a mirror emerged before the blonde, before Haku stepped out of it, taking the full brunt of Yagura's attack. "No!" Naruto yelled, crawling towards the heavily wounded Haku. Haku coughed up blood before turning to look at Naruto. Hey there, Haku stammered. "Hey," Naruto replied, holding back tears as he placed his hand over Haku's largest wound, attempting to stop her bleeding. "I'm sorry, this is all my fault." "No," Haku replied, "it's not your fault." "It's my fault," Naruto stated, "I caused all this." "No, I jumped in front of you," Haku replied, her voice gradually losing its usual livelihood. "And I wouldn't have done anything differently." "No," Naruto muttered, realizing the uselessness of his efforts. "No. In the end, I'm glad to be here with you," Naruto Haku began to say, placing her hand on Naruto's cheek. "It was all worth it. I'll end this," Naruto promised. "No, Naruto, you won't kill Yagura," Haku replied, "you're not a monster, and I love you all the more for that." Finishing her statement, Haku's eyes slowly shut as her hand fell lifeless to the side, fulfilling Naruto's fears. "Haku?" Naruto whispered, tears streaming down his face. "Come on, Haku, don't do this, not like this." Haku's heartbeat slowed as Naruto tried his best to channel whatever chakra he could into Haku's wound in an attempt to seal it. Before long, Naruto lifted his hand, gently placing Haku's lifeless body onto the ground before he turned to face Yagura, the blonde's body now shrouded in a coat of dark red chakra, with 4 visible tails being manifested. As the dust settled, Naruto vanished from view before striking Yagura in the stomach, visibly injuring the tyrant. "The god, are you?" Naruto growled before throwing a right hook at Yagura, one which connected cleanly. "Let me show you a monster of your creation." Not allowing Yagura a chance to respond, Naruto dashed towards the tyrant, landing brutal attack after brutal attack upon the transformed Jinchuriki, not allowing a chance for Yagura to retaliate. His tyranny and destruction have gone too far now. Naruto knew he had to be stopped. But these thoughts in mind, Naruto increased the flow of Kurama's chakra through his veins, the coat of chakra around his body, becoming ever darker in color as Naruto back-kicked Yagura into the fort he had raided earlier, sending him crashing through the fort. "Naruto. Calm down." Kurama advised, "This isn't like you." Ignoring Kurama for the time being, Naruto roared into the air before launching himself at Yagura, slashing at the tyrant's face before throwing a forward strike against Yagura, catching the transformed Jinchuriki in the stomach, impaling the tyrant, and drawing blood. "So god," Naruto began to say, pulling his arm out of Yagura's chest, "how does it feel to bleed?" Yagura snarled as a clear heartbeat rang across the land, the newly inflicted wound on his chest quickly patching itself up as a large shockwave created by chakra pushed Naruto back a few inches. "Would you listen to me for a moment?" Kurama yelled, snapping Naruto out of his murderous thoughts. "He's going through his transformation. Do you have a solution?" Naruto mentally asked. "You remember that seal I taught you?" Kurama asked. "If so, you need to find a way to apply that to his abdomen." The fully transformed Yagura roared into the night, his massive turtle-like appearance towering over Naruto, who turned to fact Yagura, or now as he was, Isobu. The fully transformed Yagura opened its mouth as a large sphere consisting of Isobu's concentrated chakra began to form before launching itself towards Naruto, who manifested a fifth tail behind his back, an exoskeleton forming over him. But the tailed beast ball nearing direct impact with him, Naruto ducked out of the way, avoiding the attack which would collide with the mountain behind him, destroying it in a large explosion. Isobu roared, leaping up into the air, forming his body into the shape of a spiked ball, landing back onto the ground in front of Naruto, before rolling towards the transformed blonde with rapid speeds, his spiked outer shell beginning to tear up several tons of the grassland of which it rolled. "The eye!" Kurama yelled as Naruto grabbed onto one of Isobu's spikes. "Strike his eye." Sensing around for a bit, Naruto placed his feet onto a spike, two arms consisting of Kurama's chakra being manifested to assist his climbing of the massive Bijuu, with Isobu not noticing what had been happening. Upon locating the eye, Naruto grabbed onto a spike with his left arm, his two chakra arms holding onto other spikes as he pulled back his right arm. Without further delay, Naruto smashed his clenched fist into the eye of the foul beast, incurring a pained cry, followed by the toppling of Isobu. Naruto leaped off of the beast as it flipped itself onto its shell, unable to get back to his feet. "Do it now!" Kurama yelled. Taking this as his cue, Naruto reverted to his regular form before running through several seals and leaping off of the mountain he had been standing on. Landing on the Bijuu's stomach, Naruto slammed his open palm onto the beast's abdomen before leaping onto the ground facing Isobu. Before long, Isobu's chakra vanished from Naruto's senses. The blonde retrieved Muramasa before turning to Yagura, who had now reverted into his human state. "Do you intend on humoring me, Ronin?" Yagura asked, raising his hooked staff. "Or do you simply underestimate me enough to not utilize the Kyuubi's power? Right now?" Naruto asked, raising Muramasa, a blazing red glow encompassing its cutting edge. "Right now I just want to kill you myself." "You may have sealed off Isobu," Yagura began to say, dashing towards Naruto, "but a mere boy is no match for a god." But the momentum of his dash supporting him, Yagura swung his staff at the blonde, who stepped out of the way of the blow before striking back, landing a blow from the bottom of Muramasa's handle onto the tyrant's head, knocking him to the ground. Instead of continuing his rapid assault, Naruto allowed Yagura to get to his feet, the latter readying himself as he did. Yagura dashed towards the blonde once again, who managed to dodge every single one of his attacks without fail, before landing a punch square onto the tyrant's face. "Stop mocking me!" Yagura yelled, throwing his own punch, only for the blonde to dodge it with ease. "I'll stop when you give her back." Naruto yelled, striking Yagura in the face with a roundhouse kick. The one-sided battle continued, with Naruto repeatedly pummeling Yagura, whose face had since become bruised and bloodied by the countless amounts of strikes dealt to it. Finally, an opportunity presented itself, one which Yagura seized to plunge the hooked end of his staff into Naruto's stomach. The blonde grit his teeth before slashing at the staff with all his might, cutting it clean into two before jumping into the air and throwing an elbow strike at the tyrant from his right shoulder, knocking Yagura to the ground onto his knees, who could do nothing but watch on helplessly as Naruto came before him. Naruto came before the tyrant, spending no further words as he lifted Muramasa before positioning himself to behead Yagura right there and then. Resigned to his fate, Yagura looked on as Naruto swung his blade, only for the killing blow to never be delivered, the cutting edge stopping inches short from contact with Yagura's neck. Naruto turned his head to the side, a hand placed over his to stop his blow, before feeling it once again, her chakra. "That's enough, Naruto," came Haku's voice, "you've won." "That's good enough." "How are you?" Naruto began to say, tears once again forming in his long blinded eyes as Haku placed his hand onto her wound. "You saved me," Haku replied, revealing that the wound had been sealed. Without a second word, Naruto dropped Muramasa before turning away from Yagura. Suddenly, Haku held onto the blonde's shoulders before pulling him close to her face before placing her lips on his. "I thought I lost you," Naruto murmured, breaking the kiss. "So you gonna say it?" Haku asked. "What?" Naruto asked back. "The thing you always said you wouldn't say." Haku asked once again. "Well," Naruto replied, pulling Haku into another kiss. "I love you, Haku-chan." "Okay, that chan in the end was unnecessary, but I liked it anyway," Haku replied. Naruto nodded before turning back to Yagura before raising his blade once again. "Do you surrender?" Naruto asked. "Do you think that just because you bested me that any of this will change?" Yagura asked, take a look around you, Uzumaki, take a good hard look. Look at all the death and destruction you caused. A hidden location. Madara muttered with a smirk before vanishing, well played. Open field. Before Naruto was able to plunge the full length of Muramasa into Yagura's neck, the blonde paused for a second. What is it? Haku asked. What happened? Yagura asked as if he were a completely different person. Naruto. Naruto nodded before Yagura took a look at the environment around him. What have I done? Yagura questioned, looking down onto the ground. It wasn't you, Naruto assured. I have failed my people, Yagura stated. I have failed my village, kill me. I can't, Naruto replied, it's not my right. Fine, Yagura began to say, grabbing onto Muramasa's blade, I'll do it myself. Before Naruto was able to react, Yagura dashed into Muramasa, impaling himself on the blade of the sword, ending his life immediately. Naruto shook the tyrant, only to get no response in return. I didn't mean to. Naruto began to say, I didn't. It's alright, Haku assured, holding Naruto in her arms, it's not your fault. Before the blonde was able to respond to that statement, he found himself passing out due to sheer exhaustion into Haku's arms. 1 week after Operation Downfall, Naruto slowly came back into consciousness, finding that a breathing apparatus had been placed over his mouth and nose, several tubes attached to his right arm and legs, as well as the bandaging many injuries he had incurred in the fight against Yagura. Lightly sensing the area around him, Naruto immediately noticed a sleeping Haku, one who had her head laid upon the same bed that he had been lying on. Putting 2 and 2 together, Naruto removed the apparatus from his face, before placing a hand atop Haku's head and ruffling her hair, waking her up. Naruto, Haku mumbled, lifting her head before shooting up to hug Naruto. You doing alright? Naruto asked. Are you alright? Haku asked back with tears in her eyes. Don't you dare pass out on me again, you hear me? Do you have any idea how worried I was? Naruto replied with a soft chuckle. What's so funny? Haku asked. This, Naruto stated, lifting Haku onto his hospital bed before kissing the ice user. MMPF Haku attempted to protest, before breaking the kiss, a blush spread across her face. It's a hospital. Are there no curtains around my bed? Naruto asked. Not at all, Haku replied, causing the blonde to frown slightly. My apologies, Naruto stated, but you sure you didn't want to? Haku sighed, before smiling softly. How could I ever resist? Haku asked, before pulling Naruto into another kiss. May I remind you too that you are still in a hospital? Came the voice of Mei, prompting both Haku and Naruto to immediately break their kiss, before both turned towards Mei. My apologies, Mei-san, Naruto replied. That's Mizukage-sama to you, Ronin, came the voice of a boy around Naruto's age. Now, Chijuro, Ao began to say, that's no way to compose yourself, besides, he's been unconscious for a week, he wouldn't have known of any recent developments. I apologize, Mizukage-sama, Naruto corrected himself, I take to it that you've won the war. Not I, Naruto-san, Mei began to say, it's we won the war. And thanks to our efforts, I've now ascended the role of Mizukage and am heading a provisional government before our village is capable of holding elections once again. That's great news, Naruto replied, before turning towards Chijuro. Chijuro, was it? Yes, Naruto-san, Chijuro began to say, stepping forwards. You can give me back my katana now, Naruto replied. Chijuro nodded, before passing Muramasa to Naruto, a sheath forming over its blade as Naruto held onto its handle, amazing Chijuro. How did that? Chijuro began to ask. Takra, Naruto replied, sitting upright, am I discharged yet? That's probably not for the best, Mei advised, but who am I to judge, you are free to leave whenever you want. Again, thank you, Naruto-san, and thank you as well, Haku-san, I'll be taking my leave now. Naruto and Haku nodded, before Mei, Ao and Chijuro left the hospital. Can we leave now? Naruto asked. Up you get, Haku replied, holding on to Naruto's hand as she helped him to his feet. Can you stand alright? I'm fine, Naruto replied, before giving Haku a quick kiss, now I feel better. There are right, Haku stammered, let's get out of here. 2 hours later, does it look beautiful? Naruto asked as he and Haku sat atop a tall mountain overlooking a slowly descending sun. Believe me, it does, Haku replied, I just wished you could see it too. About that, there is something I've been keeping from you, Naruto began to say, placing a hand atop Haku's shoulder, getting Haku's attention. My eyes are slowly healing, and will be fully healed in a few days or so. Does that mean? Haku began to ask. I can finally see you, Naruto replied, holding onto Haku's hand. What about the world around us? Haku asked, there's no point in only seeing me if you do not see everything else there is to see, is there? If the world had anything else worth seeing, perhaps I would, Naruto began to say, but I sense a lot, I can feel the torment in the elemental nations, I can sense the pain and hatred of all living within it, and I sense you the only thing that I consider truly beautiful in this world. That's that sweet of you, Naruto-kun, Haku started to say, pulling Naruto's face close to hers. Seconds before the pair were able to make out, a cloud of smoke appeared next to the two, interrupting their shared moment. But grief, Haku thought, that's the second time today. As the smoke dispersed, Haku quickly noted the strange appearance of the creature that had caused the smoke. Just as Naruto had sensed the sage chakra that had emanated from the creature, a small toad with a pair of goggles around his neck. "My name is Kasuke," the toad announced, holding up a scroll. "I have an urgent message for Naruto Uzumaki." "Alright," Naruto replied, receiving the scroll. "May I know who sent this message?" Before Kasuke was able to respond, the toad vanished into a cloud of smoke. "Let's just get this over with," Naruto stated with a sigh, passing the scroll to Haku. "Could you read it out loud?" "Of course," Haku replied, opening the scroll before beginning to recite its contents. "For the eyes of Naruto Uzumaki only." "So much for that one," Naruto commented, earning a chuckle from Haku. To begin this letter, Haku began to read, "I cannot state how glad I was to hear about the news regarding your survival from Kakashi, and although I am personally sorry and hope you can put my mistakes behind us, I cannot see a way you forgive Konoha for their sins. As such, this will be a personal request and not a village request. I, here is in Sarutobi and not Konoha, ask that you attend the final stage of the Chunin exams, which is 3 weeks away as an observer. Among others, the Kazekage will also be attending the finals. You do not need to accept, as it is your choice to make, not mine. Yours truly, here is in Sarutobi." Haku put down the scroll before turning towards Naruto, the blonde seemingly deep in thought. "You don't want to go, do you?" Haku asked, to which the blonde nodded. "I've long since forgiven Hokage-sama," Naruto admitted, "but I can never think of myself stepping back into Konoha, not again. Not after this," Naruto stated, pointing towards his blinded pair of eyes. "But I have to admit I want to visit the old man again, especially with his life inching away from him. I see the most respectful choice as me returning to visit the man who looked after me as a child, perhaps for the last time." "There's a but, isn't there?" Haku asked. "I'm worried," Naruto replied. "I do not want to face the inhabitants of Konoha again, and I'm worried what they might do to you for mere association with me." "Then do not go as Naruto Uzumaki," Haku replied. "Go as the ronin that is feared and revered by the elemental nations." "Are you sure?" Naruto asked. "Are you sure you want to go? Kiri is your home after all." "No, Kiri isn't my home. Kiri hasn't been my home for many years now," Haku replied, standing up before pulling Naruto to his feet. "There's nothing here for me anymore. My home is wherever you choose to go." "Well then," Naruto continued, offering Haku his hand before turning around, "let's get ready to hop on a boat to Konoha and leave, shall we?" "Let's go," Haku replied, accepting Naruto's gesture. At night, accompanied by Aain and Chijuro, Mei stood at the docks of Kurigakure with the intent of seeing off Naruto and Haku. "You've done well in your choice, Haku," Mei acknowledged. "I bid you two eternal happiness together." "Thank you, Mei-sama," Haku replied, bowing slightly. "You'd better get stronger, Chijuro," Naruto stated. "When I return let's have a little duel." "Of course," Chijuro replied. "You know what? You're already a fine swordsman, have more confidence in yourself," Naruto encouraged. "Of course," Chijuro replied. "Farewell, Ronin-san." "Call me Naruto," Naruto replied, before turning to Ao. "Can't exactly duel you, I suppose a sensing competition will suffice." "Heh, you've become quite the joker, haven't you?" Ao asked. "I'll see you soon, Naruto-san." Naruto nodded, before turning towards Mei, who held a piece of cloth in her hands. "You left this on the ground the other day," Mei stated, tying the cloth over Naruto's eyes. "There you go, hope you don't mind this small gesture, Haku." "It's fine, Mei-sama," Haku assured, "just don't get too touchy." "I assure you, I will not," Mei replied, before turning back towards Naruto. "You hear that? She cares deeply for you. You two are the most compatible pair of people I've seen so far in my life. You'd better take good care of her, and if you dare break her heart let's just say that the consequences for you will be dire." Naruto gulped, before nodding his head. For what it was worth, Naruto could sense that Mei did not appreciate cheaters. "You have my word, Mei-sama." "Good," Mei replied. "Kurigakure owes you two the greatest debt it ever could, and you two are most definitely welcome back here anytime. On behalf of my village I bid you two farewell." Naruto and Haku nodded, before leaping onto the boat to Konoha. Walking into their room, Naruto unwrapped the cloth from his face, dropping Muramasa on the floor before sitting on the side of the bed. Suddenly, Naruto leaped up as Haku sat on the bed. "What?" Haku asked. "Is there only one bed?" Naruto asked back. "I mean you had no problem kissing me in the middle of a hospital, thus embarrassing the both of us," Haku replied. "I think we're past this argument." "Fair enough," Naruto replied, sitting back down onto the bed. "You should get some sleep. I wanted to try something first." "Shouldn't you also get some sleep?" Haku asked, lying down on the bed. "I've been sleeping for a week," Naruto replied. "I doubt I can sleep anymore." "Fine," Haku relented, adjusting her pillow, "just don't stay up too late." Naruto walked over to her side, placing the blanket over her before placing a soft kiss on Haku's forehead. No promises, Naruto replied, as Haku slowly fell asleep. I promise you Father Mother Mifune Sensei Aain I will protect her. Even if it does cost me my life. That's something new coming from you, Kurama stated. And look who decided to show up after a week, Naruto mentally replied. Listen, it had more to do with you overusing my power than anything else, Kurama replied. You knew damn well what were the consequences of using that form were, and yet you still went for it. Guess I shouldn't be too mad, you're moving on at least. Anyways, I wanted to try something, Naruto replied, as he picked Muramasa up from the ground. Just then, when Chijuro passed me Muramasa, it was in its usual unsheathed state, yet when I held onto its handle and channeled chakra through it, a sheath materialized from the sword itself. Hasn't that been happening for years now? Kurama asked. That's true, but that got me thinking, Naruto began to say, as he unsheathed Muramasa, only for another sheath to take its place upon his thinking of a sheath, the initial sheath vanishing from the ground. Wouldn't that technically mean I can shape it into another weapon? Kurama began to say, that's a good question. Think of it this way. Channel the chakra into the blade the same way, but instead of a sheath, you think of a type of weapon that you know how to use. The Kusurigama, Naruto thought as he unsheathed Muramasa before channeling chakra into the katana. Naruto's chakra flowed through Muramasa, feeling its handle lengthening as its blade curved and shortened, with a large weighted segment dropping on the ground, one connected with a long chain. It worked, Naruto thought, katana. Sure enough, Muramasa morphed back into its original state. Fascinating, Kurama replied, you should probably get some sleep though. Fine, Naruto replied, sheathing Muramasa before leaning it against the wall. Naruto walked towards the bed before lying down on it and tucking himself under the blanket as a sleeping Haku lay next to him. For whatever reason, Naruto felt compelled to allow her as much space as she desired on their shared bed. Naruto laid down on the bed for a bit before turning towards the sleeping Haku and allowing sleep to consume his consciousness. The next morning, Naruto slowly came back into consciousness, lifting his head from the pillow it laid upon. Sensing the room, Naruto immediately turned towards Haku, softly placing a hand on her cheek, lightly brushing aside the hair which framed her face, prompting the ice user to smirk. I know you're awake, Haku-chan, Naruto replied. I know you knew, hence why I didn't wake up immediately, Haku replied, sitting upright. Sure you did, Naruto teased. I did, Haku replied. Whether you did though that's in question. Oh, shut up, Naruto joked. Make me, Haku mocked. My pleasure, Naruto replied, placing a hand on Haku's chin before pulling his face towards hers, as many times as you want. Before the two were able to continue, a loud knock on the door interrupted the two of them, much to their chagrin. Seriously? Haku asked herself, third time in these 2 days. Good grief, Naruto thought as a voice spoke up from the other side of the door. Naruto-san, we will be arriving at the Land of Fire's port in 5 minutes or so, the voice stated. Please gather your belongings and prepare to leave the ship upon docking. The voice was cut off, as several footsteps could be heard away from the door. We'll never have our moment, will we? Haku asked with a tint of disappointment in her voice. If you want we could go on that date you always wanted to go on in Konoha. Naruto offered, causing Haku to lighten up immediately. Really, Haku asked, excitement clear in her voice. Where? Land ho. The captain announced as Naruto and Haku walked down the Konoha. A certain raiment stand that I used to be rather fond of, Naruto replied. Konoha's gates. Who is this person we're supposed to escort? Raito asked, waiting at the gates of Konoha. Who could be so important that they get to take their damn time? Probably some foreign noble who Hokage-sama has invited, Genma replied. Even so, what could take them this long? Raito asked back. Be patient, Raito-san, Nico, or Yugao is known to a few, replied. The Hokage has considered this guest to be of vital importance. You know what that means, Raito, Hate mentioned, coughing upon finishing his sentence. Although, it is strange to think that a noble would be invited 3 weeks from the actual finals. Probably because I'm not born of any noble blood, came Naruto's voice as he appeared in front of the shinobi with Haku, surprising all four present. What the Yugao thought, drawing her sword. Where did he Hate thought, drawing his katana. You again. Raito yelled, his black blade emerging from a cloud of smoke. This might be trouble, Genma thought, forming a single-handed seal. You don't want to fight me, fellas, Naruto advised, drawing Muramasa. I wonder what Hokage-sama would do if he found his guest murdered. How do we not know you're lying? Yugao asked. Raito, you know me best. Well, sorta, Naruto replied, drawing Muramasa. I don't lie, do I? To be fair to you, you never have, Raito admitted, but we'll take our chances. So be it, Naruto stated, as Haku drew 6 senbon in each hand. You ready for a fight? Of course, Haku assured, before leaping into an appearing mirror, seconds before the mirror vanished. What the Raito began to think, only for a fist to connect to his face, knocking him to the ground. Naruto landed back on the ground, before ducking under a slash from Yugao, only to immediately jump over a slash from Hade. Thinking fast, Naruto moved to engage Hade, clashing with a Jonin before backflipping into a mirror. Suddenly, Naruto reappeared behind Yugao, slashing at the Anbu, a slash which Yugao barely managed to intercept with a parry. Before either shinobi were able to react, the mirror vanished, only for 3 senbon to plunge themselves into Hate's upper leg. I just want to talk to the Hokage, relax. Naruto assured, plunging Muramasa into the ground. Look, I'll go with you guys to see Hokage-sama and we'll see what he has to say about this situation. Reluctantly, the 4 shinobi agreed before escorting both Naruto and Haku to the Hokage's office. Hokage's office 2 minutes later. Hiruzen sat at his desk, pipe in his mouth as he signed several documents issued to him. The elderly Hokage sighed, he could feel his life slipping away from him more and more every day that passed. Before Hiruzen was able to delve deeper into his thoughts, Yugao appeared in front of his desk. Hokage-sama, Yugao began to say, he's here. Seconds later, Naruto and Haku entered the room, Hiruzen's eyes lighting up upon the sight of the boy he had once failed to protect. Thank you, Nico, Hiruzen replied. Yugao nodded before vanishing from sight as Naruto scanned the room for any form of chakra. Without warning, Naruto extended his hand towards the bookshelf to his left, a chain leaving his sleeve as it tore through the wooden shelf. Seconds later, Naruto withdrew the now blood-stained chain, with blood flowing out of the newly created hole in the shelf. That wasn't an Anbu, right? Naruto asked, moving the shelf as a lifeless body fell to the ground. Hiruzen observed the Anbu, noting the dead man's blank mask. That's an Anbu, just not one of mine alright, Hiruzen replied. My apologies, Hokage-sama, Naruto apologized, stepping away from the body, but could you ask your Anbu to leave? To the shock of the observing Yugao and Tenzo, Hiruzen nodded in agreement, prompting Yugao and Tenzo to leap down from the rooftop. You can't be serious, Hokage-sama. Tenzo protested, this man is clearly dangerous and unstable. He holds quite the reputation as well, Naruto added on. Are you questioning your Hokage, Tenzo? Hiruzen asked back. We're merely worried for your safety, Hokage-sama, Yugao assured, and we do not know the full extent of the Ronin's intentions. It's fine, I trust him, Hiruzen assured, if it makes you two any better, I invited him here. The 2 Anbu members nodded before leaving the room, moments before Naruto placed a silencing seal on the door of the room. You've grown quite a bit, Naruto, Hiruzen began to say, how have you been? Quite fine, Ajaisen, Naruto replied casually, surprising Haku quite a bit, just been struggling with a couple of things, no big deal, how have you been? To be frank, not good, Naruto, Hiruzen replied, I'm ailing. I feel my life draining away every day I wake. But am I glad to see that you're still alive for what it's worth, I'm sorry Naruto. It's fine, Naruto assured, I forgave you a long time ago, I just can't ever bring myself to forgive this village. It's your path to walk, never let anyone decide it for you, Hiruzen advised. Anyhow, what is your name, miss? Haku, Hakuyuki, Haku replied. I see, I suppose you're the kunoichi whom Kakashi mentioned that Naruto had taken into custody 2 weeks ago. Hiruzen asked. To a certain perspective, yes, it is true, Haku replied. As much as I hate to ask, how has Konoha been? Naruto asked. Struggling, to say the least, Hiruzen replied. Suna has broken the alliance, many of our tributaries are now in open rebellion, former trade partnerships we once had have now cut all communications with us, Iwa is poised to attack, Kiri had just finished its civil war, and Kumo has been engaged in several border skirmishes with our shinobi forces. But I assume some sort of agreement was reached with Suna? Naruto asked. That's right, Hiruzen replied, the Kazekage agreed to a form of rapprochement, which took the shape of their participation in this Chunin exams, in which all 3 genin they sent have made it to the finals. But with Kiri staying neutral, I see a 4th shinobi war on the horizon. Orochimaru has also returned. Funny story, I actually fought Orochimaru, Naruto replied, kicked my ass, but hey, I got the scroll of sealing from that. I heard, thank you for that, Hiruzen stated, before turning to look at the clock. I suppose you two won't mind staying with me and my grandson Konohamaru. We won't mind, Haku assured, thank you for the offer, Hokage-sama. Hokage's office. Now with the first topic of discussion settled, Hiruzen began to say, there is a second topic I would like to inquire about. And that is? Naruto asked. Your status in the bingo book, Hiruzen replied, passing a copy of the bingo book to Haku. You aren't exactly the most well-liked person here in Konoha. And why is that? Naruto asked as Haku flipped through the book. Care to read the reasons, Haku-san? Hiruzen asked. Well, besides the assassinations on behalf of other villages, Haku began to say, you have also been charged with arson, random termination of contracts, espionage, destruction of vital infrastructure, assassinations of foreign leaders, assassinations of military leaders, attempts to provoke a war between 2 nations, and etc. Quite the portfolio you have. Well, all for the job, I suppose, Naruto replied. That's not all, Hiruzen continued, the civilian council especially isn't very happy that you haven't been accepting contracts offered by Konoha, nor the offers to be integrated into Konoha. That's for obvious reasons, Naruto scoffed. The civilian council doesn't see it that way, Hiruzen stated. The Shinobi council is neutral in this matter due to the positive they gain of a weakened civilian council during debates, while they, especially the more traditional military generals amongst them, don't necessarily like the idea of a ronin who prowls the lands without allegiances and working for the highest bidder. How is that my problem exactly? Naruto asked. Also, does it have anything to do with that mission Genma, Raido and Aoba went on a few weeks ago? Mission? Hiruzen asked in surprise. What mission? Those three tried to get the land of Tea to sign a treaty with Konoha, Naruto replied. At that time, I was passing by the land of Tea to get to Kiri. Hiruzen gave it a moment of thought before sighing to himself, concluding his thoughts in regards to Naruto's statement. Those damned fools, Hiruzen muttered. I had not approved that mission, it must have been one of the elders. Before Naruto or Haku were able to respond, an Anbu appeared in the office. Hokage-sama, the Anbu began to say, a council session has begun, your presence has been requested in the chambers. That's convenient, Hiruzen replied, standing up. Where's your house, Hokage-sama? Naruto asked, picking up Muramasa. Ronin-san, the Anbu continued to say, your presence has also been requested by the council. Well, that changes some things, Naruto replied, I'll be going with Hokage-sama. The Anbu nodded before vanishing from sight. Well then Naruto, Hiruzen began to say, taking a puff from his pipe before placing the Hokage's hat over his head, let's hope you two are ready for literally anything. Council chambers. Entering Konoha's council chambers, Hiruzen walked towards the Hokage's seat, with Naruto and Haku following behind him. Upon taking his seat, the Hokage was met with thunderous applause from the other members in the chambers. What is the meaning of this session? Hiruzen asked, prompting an elderly man to pass a list to the Hokage. Here you are, Hokage-sama, Homura stated, before bowing and returning to his seat. I see, Hiruzen muttered, this will be the main topic for discussion, however I will be adding a few more during tonight's session. Let's start with those, Hokage-sama, Homura suggested. HMPF, Hiruzen scoffed, as you wish. First of all, who the hell allowed a mission to the Land of Tea? Land of Tea? Homura asked, to the shock of everyone in the chambers. The ronin you all hate so much can't provide a testimony, Hiruzen replied, to which Naruto stepped forward. That wouldn't be necessary, Hokage-sama, Kaheru stated, we do not listen to the words of someone as treacherous as he. Are you questioning your Hokage? Hiruzen challenged, making Homura and Kaheru pale in response, please begin. Well, we must first start with context, shouldn't we? Naruto asked, to which Hiruzen nodded, prompting Haku to tap Naruto on the shoulder. Well, a while ago, I fought Orochimaru and returned the scroll of sealing to Kakashi. Impossible. A civilian counselor yelled in protest, Team 7 got it back by themselves. Did they now? Naruto asked, who told you that? Well, the same counselor began to say, finding himself embarrassed by the ronin. Now let me continue, Naruto began to say, after that, Haku and I left the Land of Waves, en route to Kurigakure, and in doing so, we had to enter the Land of Tea to use its docks. There, I encountered Raido, Genma, and Aoba, the three of whom were seemingly attempting to establish a tributary over the Land of Tea. After that, I left the Land of Tea, so who knows if they succeeded. The council room fell into a deathly silence before Hiruzen stood up. So, would any one of you three like to come forward with who approved the mission? Hiruzen asked, or should I have to send all three of you to Ibiki? I did it, Danzo revealed, earning many gasps and looks of disbelief from all present in the chambers. Why was that? Hiruzen questioned. To further secure Konoha's already dampening international influence, Danzo replied without a moment of doubt, and to ensure Konoha's defense from outer invaders, such as Orochimaru, who has reappeared in Konoha as of recent, which brings me to a question I have, Ronin. And that is? Naruto asked. Why involve yourself with Konoha's issues? Danzo asked, why would you risk your life to take the scroll of sealing from Orochimaru? Honestly, I have no idea why I did it, Naruto replied, take it as a sign of goodwill, I suppose. Another question is formed from this, Danzo continued, why do you not take contracts from Konoha? And why do you not want to join Konoha or any other village for that matter? For that first question, I just cannot bring myself to steal business from Raido or any one of my other contemporaries who operate in this region, Naruto began to explain. As for that second reason, I do not want to be affiliated with any village and I do not want to be subservient to any village. I simply want to operate as an independent entity. Konoha is willing to pay a great price for you to join this village, Danzo enticed. No thanks, Naruto replied, a hint of anger in his voice, while still maintaining his overall polite mannerism. In that regard, Danzo began to say, you do realize your status of having a high bounty on your head in our village. In that regard, I am suspending his bounty throughout his trip here, Hiruzen interjected, the bounty will continue upon his departure. In any regard, Naruto cut in, do whatever you want to me, kill me, kidnap me, try to injure me, I don't exactly mind. Naruto gestured towards Haku, but try to even attempt any action against Haku here, and I can promise the ones who try a pair of missing hands from the wrist up. Is that a threat? Homura asked. No, you old fool, Naruto continued, it's a promise. You dare? Homura asked, you will treat us with due respect, you bastard. And you will know your place. Try me, Naruto stated. Anbu? Homura called out as two Anbu members appeared next to him. Defeat the two of them and then we'll talk. Okage-sama, am I allowed to take this fight? Naruto asked. Do as you wish, Hiruzen replied, use all force necessary. Naruto nodded before stepping forwards onto the chamber's wide floor. With the entire chamber watching his every move, Naruto turned towards his two intended opponents before slipping into his stance. Without further warning, the two Anbu members dashed towards Naruto, unsheathing their swords as they did so. Naruto took a deep breath before ducking under a slash from one of the Anbu before kicking the second oncoming Anbu in the neck, stunning the Anbu and separating his two enemies. Without a hint of doubt evident on his partially visible face, Naruto dodged a slash from the first Anbu before hitting the man in the chin with a palm strike, forcing him back and causing him to drop his sword. Remarkable, Hiashi, the head of the Hyuga clan, thought as he observed the battle. His facial expression shows neither a hint of doubt nor an ounce of fear. Danzo observed. He has become more powerful than I could ever have imagined. Hiruzen thought, I'm sure you must be proud, Minato. Seizing his opportunity, Naruto caught the falling blade by its handle before intercepting a slash from the second Anbu. Pathetic, Naruto muttered as he reversed his grip over the katana. Flashing for a few seconds, Naruto tightened his grip over the katana before disarming the second Anbu. As the katana spun across the air, Naruto caught it by its handle before pointing each katana against the throats of the two Anbu. Is that enough? Naruto asked, is that all you are capable of? Having seen enough to justify his intended actions, Danzo raised a finger, prompting 6 blank masked Anbu members to appear and surround Naruto. Danzo, Hiruzen asked in shock, what is the meaning of this? Sorry, Hiruzen, Danzo began to say, I'm merely securing our prize. HMPF, Naruto muttered, dropping both katanas before knocking out the 2 initial Anbu members, finally something interesting. But the 6 root members now surrounding him, Naruto smirked before unsheathing Muramasa, its blue light illuminating the chamber floors as the 6 root members rushed towards him. As if to send a message to Konoha, Naruto placed his Oni mask over his face before vanishing from sight and launching his assault, his slashes only being evident by the blue traces of light left behind. Before long, Naruto reappeared behind the root members, leaving behind one single horizontal trace of light. An impressive display of swordsmanship. Danzo began to taunt Naruto as the blonde removed his mask, but it was all in vain, wasn't it? Just give it a second, Naruto replied, placing the Oni mask in his robe's pocket. Naruto spun Muramasa before a sheath appeared over it. As Naruto placed Muramasa back in its holster, the 6 root members fell to the ground with pain shrieks, many of their limbs being severed as blood splattered across the floor. His job now done, Naruto walked back towards Haku. We're done here, Naruto stated as he and Haku began to walk out. We're not done with you yet. Homura yelled. Okage-sama will decide to that, Naruto replied, looking towards Hiruzen as he did. They are allowed to leave, Hiruzen stated as Naruto turned towards the door again, I'll be sorting the rest of you out, however. Let's go, Haku, Naruto whispered, walking out of the chambers with Haku as he did, let's go get dinner. Where? Haku asked. Remember that raiment stand I mentioned? Naruto asked. Oh, Haku murmured, you remembered your promise. Of course I do, Naruto replied, removing his glove before offering his hand, now then shall we? Ichiraku Ramen. My apologies that this place doesn't look the most luxurious, Naruto whispered as Haku guided him to a seat, this place has some of the best food in the elemental nations. I'll hold you to that, Haku replied as she took a seat next to Naruto. What can I get for you two tonight? Came the kind voice of an old man. 1 large miso ramen with extra pork. Naruto replied without hesitation. Interesting order, the old man muttered, I haven't received that order in 4 years. Come to think about it, that customer was also blonde. What can I get you, miss? I'll have what he's having, Haku replied. Are you sure? The old man asked. Yes. Haku asked. Alright, the old man replied, just making sure. If you need anything, just call out the name Tucci. Thank you, Naruto replied as Tucci ran to the kitchen. What did you just order to have Tucci-san be so worried? Haku asked. Well, it's miso ramen with pork, Naruto replied, as for why he was so worried you'll see. Before long, Tucci returned with 2 large bowls of ramen, leading Haku to immediately conclude why Tucci had been worried prior. Thank you, Naruto spoke up. No problem, Tucci replied, it's rather nostalgic for me to make this particular order again. That young man who had once ordered this would come in daily, and then he just vanished. I guess I should probably reveal myself, Naruto thought, removing the cloth wrapped around his eyes and revealing the large scar on his right eye and the burn mark surrounding his left eye, leading Tucci to gasp in realization. I'm touched, old man, you remember me so well. Naruto? Tucci asked in amazement, is that you? Right down to the bone, Naruto replied. How have you been? Tucci asked, still unable to fathom Naruto's sudden reappearance. I've had my ups and downs, Naruto admitted, but for now, I'm doing alright. I'm a rather famous ronin now. Has no one ordered this since I last ordered this? Well, no one quite has your appetite, Tucci stated. Why come back now? Well, it hasn't exactly been my first time back here, but I don't exactly want to have my identity known, Naruto replied. I understand, Tucci replied. Well, I'll leave you two with your meal. Thank you, old man, Naruto replied before Tucci walked away. I'm not sure I can finish this, Haku admitted, picking up her chopsticks. You'll be fine, Naruto replied, picking up his chopsticks. With their chopsticks in hand, Naruto and Haku placed their palms together before bowing to each other. Before he was able to begin eating, a familiar chakra approached the two. Before long, Naruto pointed his chopsticks upwards before catching a kunai that had launched itself towards them by its handle. Seriously, can you two not behave civilly without Kakashi babysitting you two? Naruto asked. I'm here too, Kakashi mentioned. Good, can you keep them in line? Naruto asked. Sakura, please behave, Kakashi requested. They're not here to start any fights, just leave them be. Fine, Sasuke replied, taking a seat. Well, it tastes quite nice, Haku admitted in surprise. You see? Naruto replied while chewing. What did I tell you? Yeah, Haku replied, you were right. Guess you could say that, Naruto replied as Kakashi turned towards him. So, Ronin, Kakashi began to say, what brings you here? Hokage-sama invited me, Naruto replied, setting his chopsticks on his empty bowl. I'm here as a dignitary to watch the final stage of the Chunin exams. Make sure you watch Sasuke's fight, Sakura cut in, maybe you'll learn something. When I can see, I will, Naruto replied. As for now, I'm content with my pre-existing knowledge. Oh really? Sakura taunted, did you know Sasuke survived the Forest of Death? Cool, Naruto replied nonchalantly, I beat Yagura last week. But the three present members of Team 7 left gaping with his last statement. Naruto and Haku stood up before heading towards the counter. Upon paying the bill and leaving a generous tip for Tucci, the two left the ramen stand. I'm sorry for the way we were interrupted, Haku-chan, Naruto stated. I'll make it up to you, I promise. No need for that, Haku replied with a smile as she held onto Naruto's hand. I know you will. You always have done so. Have I now? Naruto pondered. Have I always lived up to my promises? Have I? Oh, just stop it with that depressing stuff, Haku replied, locking Naruto in a kiss before pulling away seconds later. For what it's worth, you make me happy, and you always try to do that, and I'll always love you for that. Hiruzen's HOUSE an hour later. Sorry for how long it took us to get here, I'm not the best at directions, Naruto said. It's alright, Naruto, Hiruzen replied, leading Naruto and Haku into a guest room with two beds inside. You two will be staying here if you don't mind. Of course not, Ajayi-san, Naruto replied. Old habits die hard, Haku muttered, commenting on Naruto's address of the Hokage. Hiruzen chuckled before leaving Naruto and Haku alone in their room. We'd better get some sleep, Naruto whispered, tossing his cloak on the hanger before laying on the bed on the left. Gonna make some room for me? Haku asked, crossing her arms playfully. Isn't there another bed? Naruto asked. You've got a problem? Haku asked back playfully. Fair enough, Naruto replied, moving to the side and allowing Haku to lie next to him. Sweet dreams, Naruto-kun, Haku whispered before the two fell asleep. Early next morning, waking up while the day was still young, Haku found herself waking up alone in her and Naruto's shared bed. Already having a strong assumption of where Naruto may be, Haku walked out of the room and towards the backspace of Hiruzen's home, where Naruto could be seen standing on the shaking branch of a tree, slashing into the air while pretending to parry several oncoming slashes, maintaining perfect balance as he did so. How are you doing that? Haku asked. Practice. Naruto yelled back, also good morning. Good morning, Haku replied, are you gonna come down here? In a few more minutes. Naruto replied, slashing away into the air. We'll see about that, Haku murmured, outstretching her arm. What do you mean by whoa? Naruto began to say, before being cut off. As if on command, the air around Haku's arm condensed and solidified into ice almost immediately, forming a sort of tendril that wrapped around Naruto's leg before flinging him down onto the grass below. How'd you do that? Naruto asked in amazement. I don't know how I did it specifically, Haku began to explain as she helped Naruto up. I just always thought that it was possible, and hey, it worked. Clever, Naruto replied. Is it that difficult to do what you did just now? Haku asked. You can try, Naruto replied. Haku nodded before walking up the tree onto the branch. Cautiously stepping onto the outer parts of the branch, Haku found herself soon falling onto the ground below, only for Naruto to catch her halfway. See what I mean? Naruto asked. I even held Muramasa when I went up. Fine, you win, Haku pouted, now let's go get some breakfast. But I want to keep training. Naruto protested. Choose to do that and I'll make sure you'll never train again, Haku threatened. Alrighty. Naruto stated hurriedly, let's go get some breakfast. Later that day, I'll be leaving for a bit, Naruto began to say, kissing Haku on the forehead. Oh, Haku replied with a pout. Trust me, I'll be back soon, Naruto assured. I'll just be out for a bit. Fine, but you'll be cuddling with me for the rest of the day, Haku replied as Naruto nodded before leaping out of the window. Didn't get a chance to say it, Naruto thought, leaping across tree branches, but I do not oppose that plan one bit. Half an hour later, damn it fell again, Naruto thought as he brushed the leaves off of his robes. How the hell do I accomplish this? Naruto sighed, before trying again, only to break one of the branches, causing him to fall flat onto his face. Fuck this, I'll go see if Hokage has anything for me to do, Naruto thought, before leaping towards the Hokage's office. 2 weeks later, must I, Naruto asked, a hint of boredom in his voice. Of course not, Naruto, Hiruzen replied, but I would like it for you to help Ibisu train Konohamaru today if you don't mind. Fine, but if he acts like a brat, Naruto began to say, I will be sure to humble him. That's fine, he needs to learn some semblance of humility anyways, Hiruzen replied, I condone it. Alright then, Naruto replied, where would he be? I'd say the academy, Hiruzen replied, thank you for your help, Naruto words cannot express my gratitude. Well, had Haku-chan not suggested it I wouldn't have even considered it, Naruto stated, before leaping out of the window and heading towards the academy's direction. Academy, where is that other instructor Graham said he was going to send? Konohamaru asked, kicking his legs up on the desk. Please calm down, honorable grandson, Ibisu urged, he should be arriving shortly. HMPF, Konohamaru brushed off, crossing his arms, whoever he may be, he'd better be worth my time. Well, I wouldn't know what your standards are, Naruto began to say, appearing behind Konohamaru, for my standards, however I very much doubt that you are worth my time. Konohamaru asked in shock, turning his head towards Naruto. Watch your mouth when you speak to the honorable grandson, Ronin. Ibisu stated, running over and grabbing Naruto by the collar. What a laughable chakra presence, Naruto thought, flaring his chakra slightly, is this Konoha's standard for a Takubetsu Jonin? Feeling Naruto's sudden burst of chakra, Ibisu let go immediately, before stumbling onto his back, seemingly in fear of Naruto. Where are we taking Konohamaru? Naruto asked, a bored tone in his voice. The hot springs, of course, Ibisu replied, pushing his glasses up, it is but the best place for Konohamaru to practice his chakra control. Fucking pervert, Naruto thought, before sighing and walking towards the exit. Fine then, let's go. Hot springs. This is the best you've got to teach chakra control? Naruto questioned, sensing Ibisu touching the hot water before moving over to peek at the other gender's corner. Yup. The water here is just right. Ibisu stated. Then care to explain why you're staring at the female section? Naruto asked, walking on the water over to Ibisu. Why no? As if I would ever do such a shameful act. Ibisu argued. Yeah, Naruto began to argue back, only to be taken off guard by the introduction of a large chakra presence in the area. This chakra, it's from a strong shinobi, no doubt about it here. Hey. Ibisu called out, tuning Naruto back into the real world. I do not know who you are, but I will not allow such shameful acts in my presence. Konohamaru, go to the counter, Naruto advised, pushing the boy towards the building as Ibisu was flung out of the hot spring. But why's that? Konohamaru asked, tell me. Why? I need to take care of a bastard first, Naruto stated, his tone colder than anything Haku could have conjured. Heeding this warning, Konohamaru ran to the counter as Naruto stepped toward the shinobi. What? The shinobi asked, stepping toward Naruto, are you here to fight as well him? You aren't fazed at all. That's interesting, very well, I shall impart upon you the true nature regarding my identity. Naruto shrugged in disinterest, wrapping his fingers around Muramasa's handle. Listen carefully, the shinobi began to say, before flailing his body around and making strange maneuvers. I am the man who is unmatched in the north, south, east, and west, unmatched even in the heavens. I am one of the sand, and even a crying baby would stare in awe of my greatness. I am the great Jiraiya. And I don't give a damn, Naruto replied, before unsheathing Muramasa, its blade illuminated with a blazing red glow. You can't be serious, you believe that you can take me on? Jiraiya asked in disbelief. Maybe not, but then again, Naruto began to say, before slipping into his stance, I need to punish an irresponsible godfather. What are you on about? Jiraiya asked, you aren't my godson. He's been dead for years. And yet you still wonder why, Naruto replied, before slashing at Jiraiya, the latter only barely dodging the slash. Okay, something's wrong here, Jiraiya thought, before having to dodge another slash from Naruto. He's moving way too fast to be an ordinary shinobi. Jiraiya narrowed his eyes, before widening them again, upon sensing the presence of an eerie chakra. That sword. Jiraiya was snapped out of his thoughts when one of Naruto's slashes landed, forming a small cut on his face. That sword is alive as well, Jiraiya thought in shock, before pulling out a kunai. Without hesitation, Naruto slashed at Jiraiya while dashing past him, cutting clean through the kunai, while leaving Jiraiya unscathed to show his perceived superiority at the moment where Jiraiya still has yet to fight seriously. I can feel it, the chakra of the tyrant, Jiraiya thought, sensing the presence of Yagura within Muramasa as his summoned toad immediately was dispersed by Naruto. There's no doubt about it, this is the one who killed Yagura. 1 week ago, the disguised Jiraiya walked around the newly rebuilt Kurigakure, wandering around the market he had found himself in, while finding great difficulty in establishing a renewed spy network in the village, before something caught his attention. Did you hear of the one who had defeated the tyrant? A vendor asked. One person? I thought he was brought down by an entire army, Jiraiya thought in amazement, picking up an apple from the market to listen in on the conversation. I sure did, another villager replied, shame I couldn't have seen him before his departure. Whoever he is, he sure is a hero, the vendor replied, handing the villager an apple. They say he was a no-one. One who had just arrived the day before the tyrant's death, and one who had destroyed a large portion of the loyalist army single-handedly. Pardon me, who is this hero you speak of? Jiraiya asked. No one knows his name, all we know is that he carries a sword with a blade as red as blood, while bearing a head of blonde hair, the vendor explained. Is that so? Jiraiya continued to say, putting the apple down before walking away. In any case, I do wish to meet him someday. Present time. I need to think of something quick. Had he been able to handle Yagura, Jiraiya began to think, as he tossed several smoke grenades on the ground, he'd be able to murder me with the utmost ease, should he stop fooling around. Pitiable fool, Naruto thought, sensing Jiraiya's presence in the smoke only to be backhanded upon arriving at the area. It seems I've blundered. So you do sense my chakra, Jiraiya stated as Naruto stood up again, wiping the blood drawn from his mouth. Now how about you remove that piece of cloth around your eyes? If you claim that you know me so well. Fine, if this is what you want, I may as well allow you to wallow in your mistakes, Naruto murmured, leading to a look of confusion from Jiraiya. What are you talking about? Jiraiya questioned before his jaw dropped as Naruto discarded the cloth over his eyes. Take a look, Jiraiya, Naruto began to say, before morphing Muramasa into a pair of Tessin. Take a good hard look. Take one look at this face, it will be the last face that you will ever betray. No, it can't be, Jiraiya murmured, hesitantly withdrawing a kunai. What's wrong, oh great sage? Naruto mocked, dashing over to attack Jiraiya with the Tessin, landing several good hits on the Sannin. Failed to recognize your mistake. Please, this isn't what your father would have wanted. Jiraiya attempted to reason, only to quickly realize that the blonde was too far consumed in his rage to negotiate when a foot was planted firmly onto his face. You could have prevented all of this. Naruto yelled, before reshaping Muramasa back into a katana and landing a slash across the white-haired shinobi's chest. But no, you were doing who knows what in who knows where. Gotta think of something, fast, Jiraiya thought, before formulating a strategy. Forgive me, Minato. Jiraiya sped through his hand seals, smearing his blood onto his palm before slamming his palm into the ground, causing a large cloud of white smoke to emerge. Before being replaced by a humongous red toad that had towered over Naruto. I'm sorry, Naruto. Jiraiya all but yelled out, knowing the true weight that the blonde's true identity had held. I have failed you. You have, and you have for all time. Naruto yelled, standing against a massive beast that had stood before him. Please, Naruto, this life is not right for you or anyone. Jiraiya reasoned. Konoha is your home. My home? The fuck kind of home rejects me to this extent? Naruto demanded to know, for what? For holding the Kyuubi. I hate this village more than anywhere else, and after Hokage-sama peacefully passes, I'll personally burn Konoha to the ground. Then you are lost. Jiraiya yelled back as Naruto sensed a familiar chakra presence swiftly approaching, along with the noise of the chirping of 1,000 birds. Without showing any semblance of doubt or fear, Naruto spun around before catching Kakashi by the wrist, halting his movements and cancelling his Rikiri. I don't think so, Naruto replied, before throwing Kakashi back. Naruto, please, I understand that we have failed, Kakashi began to plead, but we just want to help you. You have missed your chance, Naruto began to say with a growl as he held up Muramasa, but don't worry, I'll be taking mine. Don't try it, Jiraiya warned, seeing what Naruto had been planning to do. Naruto took a deep breath before leaping at Kakashi, landing a powerful kick before using the Jonin as a kickboard to leap up towards Jiraiya, already prepared to cut clean through the Sannin without any further hesitation. Inches from Naruto's blade, Jiraiya leapt into the air before a blue sphere of rapidly rotating chakra formed in the Sannin's palm. What the Naruto thought, slashing past the air, slightly over the head of the toad. I've warned you. Jiraiya stated before slamming the sphere into Naruto's back, crushing the blonde under the attack and causing large amounts of blood to exit Naruto's mouth. A few moments later, the toad vanished as Jiraiya stood over Naruto's wounded body. Please, kid, Jiraiya pleaded once again, please, just anything, just let me try to help you. With anything? Naruto asked, thinking back to what he had been attempting to do 2 weeks ago. Yeah, just ask for it, Jiraiya replied, intending to make amends with Naruto in whatever way he could. Alright, talk me through the most viable pathway to Hokage Mountain, Naruto requested. On the condition that you no longer act with such aggression in Konoha, Kakashi added on. Aain, Naruto accepted before standing up, his wound slowly healing. At night, sensing the full moon hanging in the black sky, a sky that had been illuminated by fragments of light reflected by the many stars scattered across it, Naruto slowly awoke before turning towards Haku and waking her up. Haku softly yawned before turning towards Naruto, speaking in a groggy tone. "Yes, anything the matter, Naruto-kun? Come with me for a bit, I want to show you something," Naruto replied. "But it's midnight," Haku protested. "Trust me, it'll be worth your time," Naruto promised before lifting Haku onto his back. "Alright, it'd better," Haku replied, her arms wrapped around the blonde as he leaped out of the open window. Leaping about for a bit and following the route he had scouted out earlier today, Naruto arrived at the destination he had intended to go to, the Hokage monument, landing atop his late father's head as he allowed Haku to dismount. "Why are we here, Naruto-kun?" Haku asked, slightly confused. "Well," Naruto began to say, "we're on a statue of my father's head, other than that, just wanted for you to see the amazing view here. It is rather remarkable," Haku acknowledged, looking across Konoha from a top-down view. Naruto tilted his head upwards towards the full moon overlooking them both. "The moon is beautiful tonight, isn't it?" Naruto asked. Haku tilted her head upward, looking up at the full blue moon up in the sky. "It is rather beautiful." "Well, I thought she'd get it, but I guess I can change it up," Naruto thought before continuing to speak. "For the 10 years that I've lived in Konoha before I left, I've always loved coming up here, even if it were just to escape the many mobs chasing me. I'd marvel at the magnificent moon hanging above. I see, is that why this place holds such meaning to you?" Haku asked, smiling softly. "Well, that's one of the reasons to me. This place used to symbolize a dream," Naruto revealed, prompting Haku to turn towards him. "I used to want to be the Hokage, the best one of all time at that, but now I understand what a dream truly is. Becoming the Hokage was an achievement, a fantasy, yes, but the reason it never became a dream was because I was never meant to be the Hokage." While Haku watched him, Naruto began to slowly unwrap the cloth that had obscured his long blinded eyes. "In my years as a ronin before meeting you, I've always had a hidden desire, one which I had obscured for many years," Naruto replied, undoing the knots of the cloth and placing it in his lap, his eyes still closed. "That was to look upon the moon one last time." "Well, I'm sorry, Naruto-kun, I really can't help you with that," Haku replied, genuinely apologetic in her tone. "Well, now that desire has shifted," and now Naruto began to say, slowly opening his eyes. Haku placed a hand over her mouth, gasping as Naruto revealed his pair of Kitsurigan in place of his previously blinded eyes, the blood-red pupils with a purple slit, each running horizontally along them staring into hers. Now I get to share this view with you, Haku-chan," Naruto replied with a fox-like grin, "for you are more beautiful than I could have ever imagined." "Naruto, you can see again," Haku began to say, slightly tearing up as she placed her hand on Naruto's cheek. Naruto placed his cheek on Haku's shoulder before hugging her waist from behind. "Thank you, Haku-chan," Naruto began to say. "Huh? For what?" Haku asked, slightly confused. "Well," Naruto began to say, before kissing Haku on her cheek, "thank you for waiting for me." The next day, finding himself in the Hokage's office, Naruto yawned before Hiruzen, ignoring the old man's stare as he rearranged his shoddily tied cloth around his eyes, not wanting anyone around him to know about him regaining his vision, and still wanting to keep up the false vulnerability he presented. "Might I be so bold to assume you had a rough night?" Hiruzen asked, looking up from his paperwork. "Well, not exactly," Naruto replied, finally sitting down at the opposite end of Hiruzen's desk. "I had a good rest last night, it's just unfortunate that I couldn't enjoy it for so long, unlike Haku-chan." "My apologies, Ronin," Hiruzen stated, letting Naruto know subtly that there were other individuals in the room, "but I have a commission for you." "Don't tell me you want me to chase a random cat?" Naruto asked jokingly. No such a mission would be an insult to your abilities. I've got a far more," Hiruzen began to say, slowly piquing Naruto's interest in the conversation, as the old man tried his best to find the right word. "Dangerous, that's it, a far more dangerous mission for you, one far more befitting of your capabilities." "Well, as long as the price is right, I don't see why not," Naruto replied, trying to make his point clear as his mind wandered back to Haku, the ice user not being present due to her currently sleeping in their shared bed. "To place an order for a few of us are willing to put 500,000 ryo for this commission," Hiruzen asserted, placing a bag of ryo on the desk. "You can check it if you'd like." "No need, I know you have no reason to lie to me," Naruto replied, taking the bag of coins as he sat upright. "So what does this mission entail?" "Essentially, I'd like to report a missing person case," Hiruzen explained, pulling out a handguard, one that carried a chakra signature familiar to Naruto. "I believe you know who this belongs to." "Did you assume that I'd be able to identify a person based on the residue chakra left on a piece of equipment?" Naruto asked jokingly, holding onto the handguard to further sense the chakra upon it. "Hey, Cheko, interesting, where was he last seen?" "He was sent," Hiruzen began to say, before stopping upon seeing Naruto's raised hand. "Could we continue in private?" Naruto requested, noting the presence of others in the room. Hiruzen sighed, making a wave-like motion with his hand, prompting Yugao and another Anbu to appear next to Naruto as they knelt before Hiruzen. "You called, Hokage-sama?" Yugao asked, acting per Anbu doctrine by pretending not to know about the earlier conversation she had listened in on. "Leave us for a few moments," Dragon Hiruzen requested. "Nico, you may stay here, this mission involves you." "Yes, Hokage-sama," Dragon replied, nodding as he vanished from sight. "Nico, you are to work in conjunction with the ronin here," Hiruzen replied, to which Naruto gave a small wave in response. "You two are to act as equal partners on this mission, neither of you shall outrank the other." "Understood, Hokage-sama," Yugao stated, before turning towards Naruto. "My sincerest apologies for how I acted in our first encounter, that was completely uncalled for and unprofessional." "Apology accepted, Nico-san," Naruto replied, offering a hand which Nico gratefully shook. "I hope we will be able to cooperate well on this task." "Good to see that you two are getting along, but allow me some time to explain the mission," Hiruzen requested, turning the two participants back towards the old Hokage. "This mission is to be carried out gradually, ideally over 5 days." "Understood, Hokage-sama," Naruto replied, nodding his head whilst twiddling his fingers. "Are there any specific tasks we are to achieve? As well as the specific rules of engagement within the realms of this mission?" "You two are not allowed to act against any civilian or shinobi that are not directly implicated within this mission," Hiruzen instructed, "and especially not the contestants for the Chunin exam finals," he continued before passing Naruto a name list. "Here's a list." "Well, I'm sure it's got some beautiful handwriting on it," Naruto joked, wanting to keep his restored eyesight a secret. "It's just quite a shame that I can't see." "My apologies, Naruto," Hiruzen replied as the blonde passed the list to Yugao. "On that note, this meeting is dismissed, the mission begins tomorrow. Good luck, you two." "Thank you, Hokage-sama," Naruto replied, nodding his head as he walked out of the room. "You're dismissed for today, Nico," Hiruzen stated, standing up and taking a puff from his pipe before turning to look out of his window. "Get some rest, you'll have a busy few days ahead of you." "Thank you, Hokage-sama," Yugao replied, bowing slightly before she headed for the door. "Another thing," Nico Hiruzen began to say, "do keep an eye on our ronin friend, alright?" "Understood, Hokage-sama," Yugao assured, before walking out of the room. Hiruzen's house 10 minutes later. Naruto slowly walked up to the front door, reaching into his pocket and retrieving his copy of the key, before unlocking the door and opening it, walking in soon after, and locking the door shut immediately after. "TCH, damn it," Yugao grumbled as she looked out of her hiding spot. "Sneaky bastard. And why did it feel like someone was following me?" Naruto thought to himself, before disregarding it and dashing upstairs to his and Haku's room, only to find the ice user still fast asleep in their bed. Is she still asleep? Sighing softly at Haku's antics, Naruto walked towards the one window in the room, before closing the curtains, much to Yugao's ire, as she watched from the rooftop of a building opposite the one Naruto was in. Does he perhaps know that I'm watching him?" Yugao asked herself. "No, it can't be. I haven't made a single sound since I've left Hokage-sama's office, and the girl, did he do something to his partner? Why is she asleep?" Deciding to investigate further, Yugao swiftly changed into her civilian apparel before walking up to the front door of Hiruzen's home, knocking on it after a minute or so of preparation. "Oh, for fuck's sake," Naruto mumbled as he dashed back downstairs, opening the door before turning towards the outside. "Yes. Do I know you?" "That's a rhetorical question. Who are you?" "Oh, please help me, my cat climbed up a tree," Yugao made up in a fake voice, intent on tricking Naruto and sneaking into the house. "Sorry, I don't help with these," Naruto began to say, narrowing his eyes under his blindfold. "Mundane tasks, my apologies. I'm willing to offer compensation for the inconvenience caused," Yugao offered, bowing slightly. "Please, this cat means a lot to me." Alright, I'll give it a try," Naruto assured, slowly walking out of the house and towards where the tree was, allowing Yugao to sneak in as the door slowly shut. "Whew, that was a close one," Yugao whispered to herself in her usual voice, slowly creeping around Hiruzen's house as she looked around. Now to check on the girl. "Nice to see you, Nico-san," Naruto stated jokingly, appearing before Yugao whilst holding Muramasa to her neck. "Now what are you intending to do with Haku-chan? You did mention her, after all."